I hope I've put on Christmas music there, sorry. But it's 5:30, but that's good. Just go out and do something in a while. Give me 2 seconds, though. I'm yawning a bit too. I'm speaking to my own life. It's a good habit I have doing that, because I would forget if I didn't do it. Give me a second. Right, so it's popping up anyway. Where the fuck am I? Excuse me, I'm disappearing. I'm not in this reality. It's just fantasy. No escape from reality.
This new £69 powerful heater can heat.
Oh, I was going to be like, what's that in the back? What's up in the back on them? I'll go with this for the moment. A few seconds. Seconds in that. I probably should have done that off a bit. Let me see. So yeah, later on we play the rest of Ghost thingamajig. Begin the name, the full name. So I believe Ghost Contract 2. We play the rest of that. Then we finish off Metal Gear Solid. We do the rest of it. But it's going to take a long time to do Metal Gear Solid, I will say that. So it'll be a while at it, let's put it that way. What's this? I'm missing something. New World Order, okay. That's a great trend. Hello, it's people here. Hello. Sorry, I was just looking at the trends there for a second. What is this? Right, that's something. That's about that way, I'm saying. It's the season. I have to keep an eye on that, huh? Oh, New Zealand actually done it. They actually done it. So young people actually can't buy cigarettes down in New Zealand. They actually done it. They actually did it. Wow. I remember I covered that. They actually did it. They actually passed it. Wow. That's crazy. They actually got it. They actually passed it. Like, wow, that's crazy. Like, how, imagine passing that. That's a big legislation to pass now. Oh, they did pass it. They overwhelmingly passed it, see now. Yeah, they overwhelmingly passed it, yeah. Wow, that's actually crazy. They actually passed it, wow. I thought they would meet some quite opposition. Getting it passed. They actually did it, but wow. See, they won't do it over here, the reason why, because they get too much revenue, the government out of it. Like, half the money you're paying for cigarettes are going to the fucking revenue and going to them boxes in the door. You know yourself. Like, the packets of cigarettes, geez, it's nearly the highest in Europe, I think. The packet of cigarettes in Ireland. So, you know yourself. And the government obviously get a good chunk out of that, so why would they ban it if they're getting money out of it? Different kettle of fish over there, it seems like. I just seen the Irish Examiner now. Don't get me started. Me whole mountain has been a safe pair of hands. That's the Irish media for you. Not like saying he didn't do anything, he didn't fix anything at all. He's been a safe pair of hands. You can't question it. No, you're a far right conspiracy theory if you question it. A safe pair of hands. Yeah, but we just have to agree with the narrative. We can't disagree. That's bullshit. It's like you're honestly bullshitting a bit. That's great. What's happening in the Oireachtas side? Something's happening in the Oireachtas. Hello, everyone. Would actually pass? Like, I'm actually shocked they actually passed it. Like, that's a big thing to get passed. Like, let's be fair. Like, we're talking about legislation that's life-changing legislation to pass. What's happening, Dara?
In this time of real change.
Oh no.
Go on. The Pre-Kona, the town centre's first philosophy.
Oh no, fuck's sake.
Which I believe again is a change from the abandonment of
town. Oh, please go back to sleep. Sleep, please. What's he bullshitting about? He's talking about something confidence. Oh, the confidence of the House Minister. Oh no.
With all the challenges that are involved, the Pre-Kona, the Project Hussey, the plan.
Well, who's fucking Hussey?
If I look at Cabinet today, significant to my mind, an essential upgrade of our planning system so we can help deliver housing for our people. We can't be on the one hand hammering everyone saying you're not doing enough on housing,
you're not doing enough anyway.
You're doing too much, you're doing the wrong thing. As if there's a magic easy alternative formula.
But you think there's a magic fucking...
So I will vote in support of confidence for our minister, our colleague. And I do it in the determination that in the next 2 years of this government, we deliver the housing that our people need, and we deliver the change in how we see.
We'll just change it up a bit. I want to hear these bullshitters.
And we build back into the centre and build communities in that, which is what is still ringing my ears from hearing the Aylward family be mentioned. It's community that we deliver when we deliver good housing, and we are determined to do that.
What?
Thank you very much,
Mr. Ryan. We move to Sinn Féin now, or we'll hear Deputy.
Oh, there's no Mafoli in a white fucking coat.
Good Ceann Corley.
Oh, this needs Smith.
Taoiseach Sinn Féin does not have confidence in
Sure,
Darragh
needs.
O'Brien as housing minister. The opposition in this Dáil does not.
A lot of them there
have
actually were
confidence
supposed to
in the
have a vote
Housing
now.
Minister. More importantly, the people
What day is it? It's
do
Tuesday.
not have confidence
You know, I
in
think
the
well,
Housing
they'll be
Minister.
probably not back
How
into
could
fucking
they?
February.
How could they have confidence in a housing minister who, with
How could they have? How could anybody have
says
confidence
that
in
we do
anybody
not
there?
have
Let's be
a
fair.
housing emergency. A minister who has turned to denial when the consequences of his failures are writ large in the everyday lives of people. People who, despite doing everything right, still cannot put a secure, affordable roof.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
over
people
their
like
heads.
people like I know are walking. They're going out and walking, you know, in the mornings and things like that, and they're doing their best, and they still can't make ends meet basically. So, in fairness, that's true. It's not their fault. They're doing their best. The people that are like only average Joe is doing his walk. He's trying to get everything, trying to pay for everything
We
and
should have
everything.
seen real action, ambition, urgency from Minister O'Brien. But have we seen those things? No, we
Oh,
have
he's fallen asleep
not.
anyway. I think.
We have abject failure from a tired government and a housing minister.
exactly. Everyone's fucking
Darragh
tired.
O'Brien has simply recycled.
I think we should have no
policies
confidence in him
that
and
got
Ian
us
because he's
into
honestly
this
fallen
mess
asleep.
in the first place, putting the interests of big developers, wealthy investors, and corporate landlords ahead of those in housing need every time. Of course, this minister is just the latest in a long line of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael housing
Aye,
ministers
agreed.
wedded to the belief that in the end the market will solve the emergency, and it's the people who live with the dire consequences of that approach. Record house prices, record rent, record homelessness. That's the reality of this government's housing legacy. That's Darragh O'Brien's legacy as housing minister. And Taoiseach, gaslighting opposition TDs. Tánaiste that telling desperate young people that the grass isn't
Oh, I still have to
always
cover that, yeah.
greener. And gentlemen, mindless, delusional, self-pitying guff cannot.
True, it is Guff. Everybody's speaking Guff in this fucking dog.
You would imagine
It's the House
that
of Guff.
in
They should call it the
such
House of
social
Guff instead of anything.
catastrophe, government should respond with ambitious social and affordable housing programs.
House of Guff.
You have been told repeatedly that large-scale public housing is the answer. Only this week, Ceann Comhairle, the EOSRI restated that reality. But what do we get? Well, we get housing targets so out of kilter with the gravity of the emergency that the minister's own officials have rung the alarm bell.
Rung
We
the
have
alarm.
targets
Hello,
set, targets missed,
guys.
deadlines set, deadlines
Reason code on.
missed. That's
Do you
just
really
the
want to know?
performance of this
You really want to
minister
know?
in the
But how are you
midst
doing,
of
Gaz?
those serious
Well, listen to
housing
these assholes in the
emergencies
dog.
in the history of
We'll just see what's
the
happening.
state.
Obviously, he's not going to go through the
Now,
motion, no
common
confidence in
refrain
the
from
housing
this
minister. But
government,
anyway,
reiterated
we listen
by
to
Taoiseach
about that
and Prime
bullshit and
Minister,
anything what they have
is
to say.
that
Eamon
housing
Wine was
can't
talking
be
shite there a
solved
second.
overnight.
It's nothing spicy. He's
Well,
fallen asleep there.
Taoiseach, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have had over a decade to solve housing, and you've only succeeded in making things worse. Not alone has the housing emergency robbed people of the ability to put a roof over their heads, but
That's,
now it's
Deputy Mayor
impacting
McDonald,
on
Sinn Féin,
education, on healthcare, and on jobs.
I'm just letting
and
look into it, and,
investment.
you know, just listening to
Areas
it.
vital to Ireland's progress,
So just want to hear what bullshit they're
prosperity,
talking
and success.
And see, would it pass? They can be very
Teachers
surprised.
and healthcare
I know.
workers throughout Ireland are struggling to find affordable housing. Schools and hospitals are struggling to recruit and retain staff, and school children and patients are the ones paying the price. As a result of government failure, many teachers and nurses have simply given up. We're now losing them to the chance of a better life abroad. Business organisations now.
Oh yeah,
tell
New
us
Zealand's
that the
looking for
lack of a
2,000 new
coherent
nurses,
direction
so
from government
a lot of Irish
is
nurses will be
turning
fucking off to New Zealand now
investors.
soon.
Reports from chambers of commerce in counties like Waterford contain case studies of people turning down good jobs with good salaries because they cannot find an affordable place to live. The Tánaiste, Leo Varadkar himself, has admitted that the housing crisis has placed the regional enterprise plan in real jeopardy.
No, but they are going. There'll be lots of them going to New Zealand. There's 2,000. They're looking for loads of nurses in New Zealand. Like the doors are literally open in New Zealand. They're looking for nurses. They're looking for 3 or 4. I think it's no. Actually, sorry. I think it's at 2,000. No, it's 3 or 4,000 they're looking for. So a lot of nurses will be up and going to New Zealand. And this is the best thing. Listen to this next bit, Gaza. They're going to offer them accommodation, so they're going to get a place when they go there. First of all, they become a nurse. They're going to get a start off basically. A place they could get.
Designed by your good selves. Then it was
So they go basically when
Then
they turn
it
up in
was
New
the
Zealand and become a
pandemic,
nurse.
and
They're going to
now you
become a
say you
nurse in
can't
New
fix
Zealand.
housing
They're going to get
because
straight away a
of the
house.
inflationary
Basically, they're going to get
crisis.
straight away an
But
apartment or
people
something
aren't
to get them
naive.
started.
We
So
all know that
you
these
know,
developments
like
brought
you know,
challenges
what
for
nurse would be
sure.
like? You know,
But
why
those
should I
were
stay in Ireland and pay
challenges to be
€1,000
met
something
with
euro a
ambition
week
and
for rent when I can go to New
not
Zealand and they give me
difficulties
basically
to
an
be
apartment to
hidden
start
behind
off
by a
for a while,
government
which was what the
to
New Zealand
come
government was
out
doing
of its
to try and encourage more people to
responsibilities.
come to be nurses in
The
New
common
Zealand.
denominator
Over here, we're
in
just
this
like fuck
never-ending
everybody.
housing
Everybody has to
crisis
starve
is
literally
the
before you get
presence
anything for
of
free.
a Fianna
Yeah.
Fáil or a Fine
So in
Gael
fairness,
government,
at least they're giving them something. Because literally, I think it's for a few months anyway to get a free apartment.
An entire generation
basically.
has come of age listening
So they
to
encourage
your
people to go over.
jaded
Because obviously nobody's going to come to
excuses
Ireland.
and your
Because you pay
broken
€1,000 something euro
promises.
for
And they
rent and
are
things like
sick.
that. Well, yeah, and a
of
better life.
talking
As I
about
say
the
there,
construction of houses
you know,
that they will never be able to
you know,
afford.
you get a better life over there.
Sick of walking past blocks of fancy apartments that they will never ever live in. So, locked out of affordable housing, locked out of opportunity by the policies of your government, our young people now look to the airports and to life in Toronto or Boston or Sydney. And we are now losing again our greatest resource, another generation raised for export. Forced immigration is back with us again.
Well, you
not
could talk about
because of
immigration into the
fear,
country, but okay.
famine or recession, but because of the
Oh yeah,
housing
Cal Nolan was
emergency.
speaking earlier on. I heard
Because
something on the
Darrell
radio when I was
O'Brien
coming
has
home on
been
the
a
bus.
housing
They
minister
were giving out
for
about Cal
more
Nolan
of the
saying something about
same.
immigration.
Because
But I didn't know.
Fianna Fáil and
I'll look into that later on.
refuse to change. Well, our people need change like never before, and nowhere is this more urgent than in the area of housing. And I want to say very clearly that this emergency,
Are you asking
this
me?
catastrophe
Oh no, but
doesn't
the
have
majority
to
of
be
people go
this
to them
way.
countries anyway.
I believe, indeed, I know with the right policies that housing can be fixed.
But as I say there in New Zealand, you know, if you're a nurse coming out of college, take for example the moment Gaza, you, if the New Zealand government's offered people to come and work, get a job as a nurse, they're looking for loads of people. And straight off the bat you get an apartment. Straight away you don't even have to worry about getting a place. You have a place. They're going to give you a place straight off the bat. So, you know, that saves a lot of hassle. Over here you're just fucked if you're coming over to be a nurse, or even look, if you're a nurse coming out of college.
Far more ambitious
Yeah.
tenant in situ scheme. It means a real strategy.
So they
for
don't even
bringing
pay the student
thousands
nurses
of
and stuff
vacant
here in the
derelict
hospitals and
homes
things
back into use. It means an emergency plan to reduce the numbers of people and families presenting as homeless and to speed up people's exit from emergency accommodation. These are the ambitious actions our people need. That is what a Sinn Féin-led government
I don't know what they
would
do now.
deliver.
They talk a lot of guff, but
Bor an tubaiste é feimach Dara O'Brien mar ara tihiachta. Is é an Iracht atá ega na freisna tihe is orgeria.
hello. Oh, you're the person. Yes, I missed your comment yesterday. Excuse me. How are you doing? Happy Christmas Day. Excuse me, sorry. Bit of phlegm or something like that. Hope you're keeping well. Again, it's co again. I'm saying right.
Is lower a shin. Cohi an tara
We're going to become Irish stream now.
Agus beceart den rialtas tepethe seo a bhálaí a facáil leis.
Fuck all, yes. That's exactly. Fuck all. They do fuck all.
Darrell O'Brien has now been in office for 2.5 years. It's 2.5 years.
What's the thing somebody said to Boris Johnson? For the good you've done there, well, it was back when Never Chamberlain too.
Of a housing minister, he has failed
Yeah, exactly.
to get the job
Fuck all.
done.
She just said in
And
Irish.
in any other job, in any
Eamon
other
Ryan
walk of
fucking
life,
sleeping there.
he
Fucking
would
somebody
have
wake
been
Eamon
sacked
Ryan up.
by
He's
now.
fucking sleeping.
He needs
Yeah, he needs to get
go.
out. Everybody needs
But
to
let
get
me
out.
say this.
Because if
and
you,
say
like, if
very
that was you or me in a
clearly,
job, like a
this
9 to 5
goes
job, we'd be
far
kicked out.
beyond one minister.
Yeah, well, just
The
listen to the
longer
bullshit.
Fianna
Let's
Fáil
hear
and
what they have
Fine
to
Gael
say.
are in power, the worse the housing crisis gets.
Because obviously it's going to fail, the
Housing
motion
was
and no
a test
confidence.
for
It's
this
obviously going to fail.
government.
Anybody could see it
And
happen.
3 years on from the
But,
election,
we
they
just
have
listen to
failed
the
that
bullshit,
test spectacularly. The housing crisis is now so bad that it's undermining our health system, our education system, and the economy, whilst also pushing another generation of young Irish people to emigrate. So our people simply cannot afford for this mess to go on any longer.
Oh, it's probably going to
Not
go on,
only do
unfortunately.
we need a change of housing minister, we need a change of government. We need a general election.
Well, yeah, there should probably be general.
Deputy O'Brien.
Oh, it's to him.
Can we
No.
have Deputy O'Brien now without interrupting?
Ceann Comhairle. Taoiseach and Minister. Yesterday I had a phone conversation with an incredibly distraught family in County Kildare. Their son, Wayne, is sleeping tonight in a tent in County Meath. Wayne suffers from very extreme mental health challenges in his life, and he's been homeless for about 2 years. And the problem, since I and my colleague, Deputy Darren O'Rourke, have been working with this family, is that there's simply no emergency accommodation, either in Meath or Kildare, that meets this very vulnerable man's needs. And the real concern of the family
exactly,
wasn't
that's
just
on
the
with that.
impact on his health.
But yeah,
Even
no,
the
this is a weird
temperatures
story
that
now
are
of
currently outside in our
people
streets,
suffering.
this young man's life is at risk. And I don't say that as an idle throwaway comment. Over the last 2 days, we're reading newspaper reports of a young woman who was rough sleeping in my own constituency in Clondalkin, who has tragically died at the weekend. And the question has to be asked, Minister, why is this happening? And the answer is very, very straightforward. It is happening because your housing plan is failing. It is happening, Taoiseach, because the policy.
Yeah, I think that's the first time anybody mentioned about that woman. I heard about it, but nobody kind of mentioned that in the news or anything.
And let's just look at the plan.
Because again, if she was a Ukrainian or
Social and
something, that'd
affordable
be all
housing
over the news.
targets way below what's been needed, and they're not being met year on year.
Another woman failed by the state.
Homelessness at levels we never thought was possible. The Minister for Housing today called for his predecessor to resign when homelessness was approaching 10,000. It's 11,500 men, women and children on your watch. And while the Taoiseach will deflect on everybody else, it's always somebody else's fault. Go and read the ESRI report from Friday, because they're telling you two very simple things. That the plan that you so eloquently celebrated only moments ago is not going to meet its own targets over the medium term. And in fact, what the ESRI have called on you to do is implement the very policy proposals we have been outlining for years. Dramatically increase direct state investment in social and affordable homes, real action on vacancy and new methods of building construction, and take action on land management. Things your government is talking about doing, but not doing.
Ooh.
And up until recently, every time a government member spoke, they told us planning permissions were up, commencements were up, and new homes were up. Well, that's not what the data is telling us now, Taoiseach. In fact, every major report for months is telling us commencements are down, planning permissions are down, and next year's and the following year's targets will not be met. So I don't know how you can stand here and blame anybody on the opposition for the failure of you and your government's housing plan.
Fucking everything's crashed. Bit everything. Don't know why it's.
Survivors, your housing policy, come to us for help, and that is why everybody on this side of the house is going to reflect on those. But let us be very clear: despite your misdirection, despite your misrepresentation, and despite your blaming of everybody else, your plan, your minister, and your government is failing, and that is why Wayne's life is at risk tonight. So I make no apology for saying I have no confidence in the Minister for Housing. It's nothing to do with Dara as a person. It is to do with the policies that he and your government have been pursuing for years. They caused this crisis, they're making this crisis worse, and only a change of government, a change of minister, and a change of housing plan is going to allow us to finally put about an
Well, it is true. The plan that
it
it is true. I agree with them on that bit. For donkeys years, they've gotten the same narrative as the government, and it's never done any good. The housing plan. Yeah. Oh, it's Leo. Hello,
Thank you
Leo.
very much. This motion of confidence was triggered by a motion of no confidence.
Number 4 is
from
not even
People
fucking
for
listening.
Profit. People for Profit knows that their motion had no chance of passing and wouldn't build a single house or house a single other family. Its purpose was to embarrass and to personalise.
You should be embarrassed. The government should be embarrassed. Like, they literally should be very embarrassed. They should be ashamed of themselves. Every one of the Fine Gael people there, and 3 and 4, should be ashamed of themselves. You know, I don't know what they're trying to say. Like, they're talking about embarrassment. They're the biggest embarrassment going.
We'll move on in the next hour or so and get back to the important work of government.
That way, fucking
Taming
nothing's been done.
inflation, helping families with the cost of living,
I'm sure you will.
building homes,
Building well.
creating jobs and investment, taking climate action.
Where do you fucking
and
see this?
providing
I don't see
equal
anything
opportunities for all
happening.
our
He's
nation's
talking
children.
shite.
Count Corla, I do think for a moment we should reflect on what life would be like if people before profit solidarity took the reins of government.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
For one thing, we would
But I
still be
suppose-
under lockdown, pursuing a zero COVID policy.
Oh, yeah, well,
as
you
the
do,
Taoiseach
of
pointed
course, yeah.
out. To quote People Before Profit's own policy, and I quote, it is critical that we break immediately from the failed living with COVID strategy and implement a strategy based
Oh,
on
but the government, if they
elimination
got away with it, they would have
of the
kept it.
Chinese approach. This would have our economy in shutdown for a third Christmas,
Aye, well, you were doing your best, and they're doing their best to try it. I know.
and we would deprive people of their basic liberties for far
Oh, you're the man to
Fewer
speak.
houses
You're the
would
man
be
to
built
speak.
in the past year.
You're the man
under
to
people
speak.
Before profit, if any, would have been built at all. Yes, a left-wing government would mean radical change. Radical change for the worse for the vast majority of people.
Oh, I don't know what to make. I don't think any of them any
Retreat
good. I
from
know.
Europe and the world in pursuit of an ideological experiment that has brought misery and oppression to every country that has tried it. I acknowledge that we've much more work to do, especially on housing. But this government has helped our economy and society emerge.
I don't think you have
strong
helped
from Brexit
anybody apart from the
COVID
bankers. No,
and the war in Ukraine.
of course.
There are record numbers.
It's
of
all
people at work in
Putin's
Ireland
fault.
at
It's
the moment.
Putin that's to blame.
Trade
He's stopping all the
investment
houses
at
from
record
being built.
levels.
He's literally coming over with nuclear
Notwithstanding
weapons and threatening to
inflation,
blow up every
incomes
house.
are rising.
It's
We're
Putin.
generating
Putin.
budget surpluses due to prudent management of the public
I
finances.
said he said Putin there
We're
was to
using
blame.
that money to help families and businesses with rising
And
energy
Putin's
costs.
to blame for everything.
I know the government needs to do much more in housing in the next 2 years, and it needs to be a whole of government approach.
A hole there, you need a hole.
It's a crisis that cuts across all age groups and one that demands results as well as actions. Today's motion is heavy on analysis, or rather the motion of confidence. No confidence was heavy on analysis, but light on solutions. Not even one proposal as to how we could build houses more quickly.
I don't know.
It's easy to
really.
invent slogans and raise targets.
I know
Much
how to.
harder to design and execute solutions. In housing for all,
Yeah,
we have a plan.
yeah,
that's
exactly.
thought
But
through,
we might as well listen to the
with
bullshit,
serious
and I hope we
actions
keep
that
away half that.
complement one another.
Like none of them are watered down.
We're
Like let's be
providing
fair, none of
grants
them
to
there
help people
are
renovate
worth
old buildings
5
and breathe new
cents.
life into them,
You know.
thus creating new homes in towns and villages and rural areas. all
Like
over
I don't know.
the
I think he's talking about another country because I don't see what he's talking about.
35,000 first-time buyers.
I think he's
have
dope.
benefited from the Help to
You're
Buy
talking
scheme.
because
And we
if he's
extend
talking about this
Help to
country, he's
Buy
talking about
for
some other
another
country.
2 years.
Because
We're helping
nothing's being done.
thousands
Like
of
let's be fair, I
first-time
haven't
buyers
seen anything being
to
done.
bridge the gap between their deposit and the mortgage that they can get and the price of a new home through the First Home Scheme. And Cancorla, 16,000
We should be talking about why you're not in
individuals,
prison too, but I
couples,
know.
families have bought their first home in the past year.
Because that's true. You should be in
That's the
prison. but I know.
highest in 15 years.
I'm sure it
It
is.
might be higher
Fucking
still.
my whole it is.
These people would not have been helped to buy if people before profit had their way. They want to take away the Help to Buy scheme.
Well, you want to
Don't
take
believe
away
the
everybody's
First
private
Home Scheme.
properties. Like they literally
They
want to do
take
that. But Irish
sponsored
government.
rent for life model of
And
housing.
Fianna Fáil, Fianna Gael,
Not
and
what
then
they
people
call
before
it.
profit than any all the rest of them.
Cancorla,
Vast majority.
our mission for the remainder of this government
It's the
is
fucking.
to turn the
I
corner
don't know.
on housing for everyone. Whether you're a renter, a first-time buyer, somebody experiencing homelessness, or somebody
sorry,
in need
missed the
of
comments.
more suitable accommodation. Our
Yeah,
mission
we
is to
push
restore
it.
the social contract and to make home ownership affordable for the many again.
Oh, I'm sure that will happen
So
in the
we'll
next
build
3
more
years.
houses
I'm
and
sure they
apartments
haven't
for
done
people
anything in the last 3
living
years.
in
So are they
simple,
going to do anything in the
affordable
next 2?
accommodation. We'll build even more social housing
Will you now?
because this benefits everyone.
Oh, you'll be the
Takes people
Taoiseach
off
soon.
the housing
Yeah, I
list and
forgot
frees
about
up private
that. You'll be the
rental
Taoiseach in a few
properties
days.
for others and puts downward pressure on rents and house prices. And we shouldn't forget, Cancorla, that somewhere around 8,000 or 9,000 new social homes will be provided this year. And that could be the highest on year in the history of our state. People hark back to the 70s, the 80s, the 20s, the 40s, the 60s, periods when they believed the state was building more social housing. That's not the case.
Oh no, years ago now they were building them up like rapidly, like in Cavan Town there. To take for example.
We're providing more social
Like in the
housing
70s and
than
60s, in the
people
60s,
for
and even
very
in the
long time.
50s, they were building rapidly. They were building big estates with hundreds of houses in them. Rapidly, they were built within a year. Like I don't know how they did it. You know, in the 60s and the 70s, with very little material and stuff to work on. The country was more poor back then. But they might have not been built with the best quality, but they still were rapidly building houses constantly. Like if you go up to the town there beside the swimming pool, in the early 50s, 60s, and 70s, they were building hundreds. There's about 300 or 400 houses that were built there in them 20 years.
always.
And it doesn't like they can't even build 5 houses now.
He's a
You
good
know,
man,
it doesn't make,
a man
who's a
who
good
cares.
man? Nobody's a good
And
man
the
in
man
that
is
government.
doing everything that he can to turn this situation
I'm
around.
sure he is.
He played an instrumental role in the programme for government negotiations after the general election, helping to form this.
I used to bet you
historic
barely
coalition,
even got in. You know.
while others in opposition barely even tried to put together an alternative and organised a range of public meetings instead. Tough as it is, Dareth didn't
Tough,
hesitate in
fucking
taking
tough
on
is
the role
not
of
in
Minister
the-
for Housing,
I,
and he, like all of us, has more to do. I know he will not be undeterred by tonight's motion, and will be back at his desk this evening, working on how we can shift the momentum.
I'm
in
sure you
housing
will. I'm sure you go home
help
and do
people
nothing.
through this difficult winter. I commend the motion to the House, Grimmy Laga.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach Minister Butler.
Oh, he's maybe got no, no.
The construct of the no confidence motion put forward by people before
Hello,
profit
Fiona. I
leaves
know who's
us
that? I thought it was
yesterday.
Fiona. Hello,
A
hello.
motion disingenuous,
Paul, sorry.
misguided
Disingenuous.
and wide of the mark. The fantasy
You're
they
some
put
woman
forward
to talk. The minister
is
over
that
met the
removal of
house.
one of
You're
the
some woman to
ministers
talk
from
about.
office.
The time I got in touch with her
1 year
about
into
the
a
extra
10-year
resources for
strategy,
Cavan, which we have got a bit, but she still has not bothered to answer me. I wanted to ask her personally what she's going to do about it. Like she has some guff.
And over
Like she has actually
16,000
some guff to
first-time
speak about
buyers.
doing stuff.
Fact, not fiction.
Fucking your
Also
fiction.
the highest
Because let's be
since
fair.
2008. With some
She's done not. She's done nothing.
our
A few
housing
during the
crisis.
lockdown, there was huge amount of suicides in
They took
Cavan.
to the
There was
airwaves
nothing
over the
done to
weekend
help
to
anybody.
engage in their usual
That's the thing.
populist sloganeering, citing the need for
And she just
fundamental
literally
change.
ignored everybody who wanted to talk
Our
to her and
people
ask her
before
about what she's going to do
profit
about it.
seriously
What's the plan?
suggested
Because obviously at the
that in order
time,
to increase
during the
supply
lockdown, it was a
quickly
city
as
that
possible,
Cavan had a huge
we
amount of
should stop
suicides.
what we are
Week
doing.
after week there was suicides.
That is implementing
Young
the single
suicides.
most
And basically Mary
ambitious
Butler sat in her
housing
hands
plan
and none.
in the history of the state,
Come.
with unprecedented levels of multi-annual funding and start all
It did
over
make
again.
like it's
So
beyond
let's
words.
talk
How
about
she.
what's happening in Waterford
What?
under Housing for All. So should we stop the repair and lease
Love, yeah.
scheme?
Well, thank you.
71 residential
No, it's a
housing units
motion
for
and no
older
confidence
people
in
to
the Minister for
right-size
Housing.
to the former St Joseph's Convent. Inner city living for inner city people, appropriate to their needs, with the wraparound supports that people need. Completion.
No, I'm just
quarter
saying,
one,
I'm kind of
2023.
half focused in the moment and everything. I'm
Let's
trying to
talk
listen.
about affordable purchase delivery. Mount Neil, Carrickferrish.
Where the fuck is that?
32 affordable purchase houses. Completion, first quarter 23.
Years ago, there would be
Deer
90,
Park,
more than
Williamstown,
40.
25 affordable houses.
Like speaking of the, like, as we say in the 50s and 60s, instead of 42, there'd be 142. So there'd be doubling
62
it.
affordable
But now
units.
it seems, I don't know.
Completion, 2 phases.
Eamon Ryan's
Full
asleep, but I
complete
don't know.
Quarter 1 2023. Let's talk about prices. The projected sale prices will be between 214,000 and 243,000 per affordable unit. That's delivery.
240.
That's housing for all.
I don't
That's
know.
what's happening in the length and breadth of the country.
Fucking, I don't see it.
Might
Where
be
were you
happening
talking
quick
about?
enough, but it is happening. The opposition continue to call for a general election and a new.
It should be a general. Like in terms of met the
But
house.
in reality,
You know, she is utterly
none
fair
of
too,
the
so there should be
opposition
no
parties
confidence
share
in
from
her.
challenge of
Like
office.
Lindow, I was in the Met the Health ward a few years ago, up in Lindow and Ballyfermot, in Cherry Orchard Hospital, and half of that is closed at the moment. Half of the wards there, the only wards in the country for young children with severe mental health illness and severe suicidal tendencies. Half of them beds are closed. There's only 10 operation out of the 23 they have. So, because they haven't got the staff to put there. And they come out with this, and she's over the Minister for Mental Health. So she has some guff in coming out with this. You know, because again, that's the only, there's only 23 beds in the whole country for people who are young children that are struggling with suicide tendencies and stuff like that. And there's only 10 of them operational in the whole fucking country. So, you know, let her talk. If she wants to talk off, thankfully the internet's having a fit and just not listen to her anymore. Some guff.
Tireless work he is doing.
Tireless my
And
whole.
I think it's about time that we get real and realise.
Get
that
real.
this is our
Get
duty
real.
to
I
represent
love
the
to see you get
country.
real.
And I endorse the motion, Gordon Mahagan.
Thank you very much, Minister Butler. We go now to Sinn Féin again, where Deputy McLaughlin is sharing with Deputy Rose, Conway Walter.
I was got. No, don't say Norma Foley's going to get up now and speak.
Minister, I have no confidence in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael in government to tackle the housing crisis. From the years 2000,
Yeah, everybody's suffering through lockdown. But look at the, like, I just want to say, just slow it down for a second. But just to say, like, the waiting lists in Cavan, as I was saying during the lockdown, before the lockdown, you waited 5 months. Do you know CAMS, the Adult Mental Health Service, the HSE1, basically? You waited 5 months to 6 months just to be seen, just to even be seen, just so they can note your name down that you're down. 5 months, just not even to get medicine or anything, to get treatment or anything. 5 months. And there was a young lad too, and I'm not going to say too much about it, but he's unfortunately passed away now. He went to CAMS and there was no solve. They couldn't help him, and they had to go to a voluntary group that helps people with mental health illnesses. They had to go to a voluntary group because the state couldn't provide him any help. So that tells you all you need to know. Mary Butler has guff coming up and saying the work has been done, and she's some guff. She's some guff. Do you tell you? Some guff to come out and say this shit, and her hasn't done anything either. Some guff. Yeah, I know, but it's not really the solution. It's general solution to the need too. But some guff, as I was saying there, there's no. It's still to this day. I think it's 4 months. You wait to be seen by CAMS. It's gone down a bit, but it's still you wait 4 months. You're going to wait 4 months to be even just seen, just to be seen by CAMS. So that's unacceptable. And people who are literally probably that's it's joke.
The responsibility was on you and your government to deliver a scheme.
But anyway, it should be no
that
confidence
gave
motion.
justice. These are traumatised families. People who
I hope you're doing well,
lives have
Sean.
been
Okay.
destroyed, people who are victims.
I haven't got much time now for Mary Butler.
System of regulation of the construction industry in this country. They're victims. I'll never forget, Minister, the imagery of the campaigners last July in that public gallery. They were absolutely distraught, and they were betrayed.
He's the
They were
TD for
betrayed.
Donegal, Sinn Féin TD for Donegal, along with his stuff.
With the government to arrive at a scheme.
See, they've been more talking about the Michael schemes up there and all that crap. Why is this fucking the computer's literally fed up listening to them? Like, see, let's be fair, the computer's literally lost the
the
ability.
legislation through because you said it was urgent to have a scheme that people could work with. And here we are now, almost at Christmas, and we still don't have a scheme. It's still not.
Probably next Christmas.
What we have, though, is the spectacle of a government senator with absolutely outrageous comments in the Upper House last week, attacking the families, the victims, the traumatised families, talking about a good scheme that no...
Fucking, will you stop fucking... What's wrong with this whoever thing? Excuse me language.
Self-Minister, I have no confidence in Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil to do what's right by our people when it comes to housing based on lived experience. Conway Watt.
Oh, what was Conway Watch? Yeah, Mayo.
I've no doubt it was said earlier on that you're working hard, and we're not disputing that.
I don't know about working hard alone, Sean.
But what I do know is that it's not working for the people in Mayo. It's absolutely not working for the people in Mayo.
She looks a bit like the former Croatian president, but anyway.
To say that we're doing our best, you designed the system that's not working. You designed it in HAP and in Ross and everything else, in privatising the very thing that people absolutely need, the shelter for people, the roof over people's head. You privatised it, and as a government you privatised it, and you must own it. You must now own that. I spoke to my friend, my son the other day, who named out all of his friends on the local football team and said, it's very, very unlikely, and some of you here know what football team that is, it's very, very unlikely we'll be able to feed the team next year because we have to immigrate. Because so many young people...
I thought you said feed them.
Because they don't have a roof over their head.
Aye, but that's true, yeah.
And the great tragedy, Minister, is you and the people who are sitting beside you don't...
Load of bollocks, that's how I say.
You don't realise how bad it is.
Aye, in the minimum money, yeah. They're getting said, don't worry, in a few minutes' time they'll be talking about the 7,000 euro rise. So don't worry, the cost of living won't affect them. 7,000 euro.
30 seconds. Minister,
Who's seven?
I'm not
It's 30.
against you.
Who's this?
Well, I have something against your policies and your...
Who's this fella? Oh, this is this fella. Oh, this is this, this Pauline Tully. Hello, Pauline. This is the fella for down the country, isn't it?
But I'm going to tell you about families...
No, it's no call centre. I didn't know who you were, no. I didn't know.
Grandmother who can't close the door of her bedroom because she has to put another bed in there to put her grandchild because
Yeah,
her
you can get
daughter
everything.
has nowhere to live. I have another lady who She doesn't smoke, she doesn't party, she works hard, she has a lovely home, she has a notice to quit, and in April, her and her 4-year-old daughter will be homeless.
Thank you,
That's
Deputy.
why we have no confidence in you. Your plans don't work. And listening to the Taoiseach and Minister Butler there earlier,
Deputy,
you talk about facts of...
Oh, I don't know why it keeps lagging. Why do you keep lagging? What do I hear? Fuck. Might just have to get it on my phone. Exactly, you know what I'm doing. So, yeah. I'm trying to listen to what Matty McGrath's talking to the camp code.
Oh, sorry, Mayor Maxima Culpa.
Who's Max McCullum?
See now.
Good man, Matty, get up there and fucking tell me.
Oh, sorry, Deputy Ivana Bacik.
Oh, no.
She's not here.
She's not here! Where is she?
Housing is the foundation.
Where is Ivana Bacik?
Functioning society.
She's not here. Imagine that. She wants to speak, she's not there. She's not there. What's she been paid to do then? Why is she not there? She wants to speak and she's not there. The computer's actually losing the will to live listening to this crap. It's actually probably going to die now because it's that fucking sick of listening to these fucks. I might have to actually put on the telly or something to listen to them bullshit for another while. Yeah, because it's actually dying. I don't know why it's dying so much. Why is it dying? Like, I don't know why it's dying. Yeah, but she's not there and she wants to speak. Like, what did the whole constituency photo in for if she's not there?
Affordable. We've a rental market in chaos. Home ownership beyond the grasp of so many people.
Doesn't make any sense.
Skilled and who work hard for a living. Both funds competing with first-time buyers and councils. Soaking up
Who's on
homes
councils?
off
What?
the plans. And to our eternal shame, now, this Christmas, 11,000 people, including children, were paying...
Well, Labour's to blame for it too. They can't really preach the choir. So let's be fair, Labour was in government before. And John Bolton fucked over everybody.
The basic metric should be this. Are things going better?
But where's Ivana
than
Bacik?
when
Is she
you
out
first took
doing
on the
something?
job? No, they manifestly aren't. They are.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. We must be psychic, John. I just say the same thing. Like Labour's something to be talking about. You remember John Bolton fucked over everybody. He fucked over the single parents and the working class. So Labour's some people to be speaking about things. And then don't mention about the latest tweet on Twitter. Don't mention about that. It's still get me started.
Change your plan, and you have the humility to change the plan.
And that's why they have no fucking TDs left. So we'll kick that.
And for that, this government will pay a heavy price.
Well, yeah, you paid a heavy price in every election. That's what Joe Bolton's know to be found.
In the course of our business, these are the harsh, cold facts.
The harsh cold facts that Labour fucked over the working class and the single parents and everything.
And Mr. Butler referenced Waterford earlier on.
Minister Butler has some bollocks.
In Louth, I'll tell you the reality. House prices have gone up by 7% in the last year. There's planning permission in place for 11,000 new homes. Only 1,282 are under construction or expected to be completed
1,082.
this year.
11,000 planning permission.
2020, at the height of the pandemic. And before your plan, there were 1,076 completions. This was before Housing for All. And yet we still say that Housing for All is a success.
Yeah,
There's
this is
over
the bike
10% of
crash,
all
yeah, exactly.
the permissions in place, and a fraction of
And we're
what is
still
needed
paying.
to house people is being built this year. 41% fewer permissions granted across Ireland. In the third quarter...
This is actually pissing me off. I want to listen to the fucking heroes what they have to say bullshit about.
years on the housing list is the reality for the people that I represent. That's the reality of life in Louth. It's the reality of life and the lived experience for far too many across this country in 2022.
Don't know why it's lagging.
Yet you still stick to a plan that isn't working.
Eventually I have to get
Indifferent
like
to all of
something
the
set up.
warning signs from opposition.
I just want to hear
and
what they
from
have to bullshit and what they
independent
have to say.
experts. Now, Housing for All has many of the fundamental design flaws of Fine Gael's Rebuilding Ireland, a plan that you, in terms of competence and supply, supported. A massive over-reliance on private developers.
We're meeting McAvaney. Remember McAvaney saying we'll get planning permission. He wants loads of money in exchange for getting planning permission kicked off. So we get McAvaney and he'd be doing well.
Developers make it clear, especially apartment developers, that they don't have the finance, that they're getting out
He's
of
still
the
on the council. He's still a county councillor in Monaghan.
to
Just the
the
same.
Housing for All plans,
Even though he's
Housing for
taken
All
bribes.
metrics, and you fail to change tack fundamentally to ramp up what we need to do
No,
as
not
to build social and affordable homes on publicly owned
Where's
land
Matty
for
McGrath?
local
Like somebody get Matty
authorities.
McGrath on here.
When supply in the private market slows, you're looking for scapegoats. That's what's happening. Residents' associations using their constitutional right to take a judicial review, for example. A right you now want to deprive certain citizens and bodies of.
How about you want to
The rush
deprive
to
everybody of the rights?
reform, and I use that term advisedly, and Burplanola, a body badly in need of reform, but not in the rushed way that you plan. I know you want to limit Part 8 powers for local authority members and local authorities more generally too. Now this sounds to me like a solution in search of a problem, if I ever saw one. Now we all saw this coming. We knew that putting most of your eggs in the private sector basket was a Hail Mary strategy. And that's why Labour has said in our costed budget, launched last September, that we should be spending an extra €1.5 billion next year on public housing.
But where the fuck
and really scale up your ambition on
He's laughing at
housing.
it. He's having a good laugh anyway.
Anything positive and progressive
I
that
know,
you might
it's-
have done on your
you know,
watch in
you
terms
can't
of
find
housing
text,
was
listen.
done because you
No,
had
there's no
to
point in
carry
me trying to find the
kicking and
text.
screaming, led by the opposition.
Who's kicking and
I'll give
screaming?
you some
Everyone's
examples. The winter eviction ban, something that you simply refused to do. Dragged kicking and scream to introduce a winter eviction ban this year. The increase to the income threshold for social housing. Restrictions on Airbnbs. The creation of the tenant in situ scheme in the first place, which has worked well, where it has worked, for tenants who are at risk of homelessness,
but I don't know why the
landlords
fuck
who are
it's
selling up as well. And in terms as well of increasing stamp duty on funds buying multiple units in housing developments. In all of those circumstances, you and your ministerial colleagues have to be dragged kicking and screaming by the opposition to do the right, practical, pragmatic and constructive thing. And Minister, we in the Labour Party are doing our best to be constructive with you, but you are sometimes making that very, very difficult. It's your policy that we have a problem with. We don't have a problem with you, we have a problem with your policy. And you will survive today's vote. You
Oh,
have
well,
the
we
numbers.
could see
This
that
is a
coming,
numbers game. But your plan shouldn't. Your plan should not survive this vote.
So why
Well, at least
to
what
be
you
totally
do
honest, why the
have
fuck
the
did the bother I
ability
suppose do
to
that?
change your plan.
People thought
And
about
it's not
why did the
working.
bother to
And
take
to
a motion?
listen
Like,
to the constructive
you know,
proposals being
what was the
provided
pipe
by
really if you knew it was
opposition
going to
today.
I don't know.
Minister,
You could say that it wasn't
you
right,
must
no.
change your plan.
Now who?
Now, please.
Who?
Her Margaret Corla, it's notable how little time
Who
the
you?
government has spent this
Oh, you
evening
this fellow, this
actually
is the Social
defending their
Democrats,
record in
yeah.
housing, and how they've used most of their time to talk about any other issue,
Yeah,
or indeed to
yeah,
attack the.
No, the computer's actually losing the will. We might have to do A to B. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna try something. If it doesn't load, we're going to try the emergency powers. Why so? How so? I don't get it. Let me see. Let me see. It's just out. Give me 2 seconds. Why is this not connecting? Why are you not connecting? What's the problem? Let me see. Is there something I'm doing that's fucking up? Couldn't connect. So is it? I have to press this. Is it?
AUX mode. Where rents are now much higher than mortgage payments.
Okay, it's still crashed. I mean, couldn't connect. Don't know why it won't connect, but now you should be able to connect it through Bluetooth. But now, where are we here? Put it on my phone and shut them off. Houses of the Oireachtas. Hello, Dan. Yeah, these communities are put it on the way. Why is this happening here? I don't know. I think it's just my tablet, laptop app on the bit. Why are you not walking now? Why is this not? It's walking. I think it's because I'm live streaming too.
They're voting confidence in a crisis in our school.
You see, it's probably all the fucking wires too. Are you going to fucking walk or are you going to stand up? Don't know why he doesn't want to walk, by the way.
Teacher shortages.
Are you going to load? Fuck's sake. I know, but we might as well listen to the talking bullshit anyway. Just to hear what the enemy's saying, I suppose. This has actually pissed me off. Why are you not walking? This is millions to one. I'm going to reload. I think we're better off really going back to the computer now. I don't know. The computer's literally, everything's fed up listening to them.
High on the open market. They're voting confidence in a minister that never misses an opportunity to use more and more public money to provide subsidies for developers. And a government
But
that is now
you couldn't. I can't really
spending
connect it to this,
€1
but to this chat.
on
That's
long-term
how you
lease
hear
and
it.
sweetheart deals and other rent subsidies that push up rents, making them ever more unaffordable. They are voting confidence in a government that is somehow leaving millions of euro allocated to build new homes unspent. A government whose capital underspend in the Department of Housing was €702 million at the end of November. And a minister who's reallocated elsewhere €337 million that was earmarked to build new local authority homes this year. How is this possible in the middle of a housing disaster? Government TDs supporting the housing minister are voting confidence in a decline in the number of new homes that are getting built, with commencement notices for new homes 14% down on last year. They're voting confidence in a government that allows developers to sit on planning permissions and hoard land and drip-feed housing supply to ensure the prices of homes become ever more affordable, where there are 80,000
Nearly billions, billions
around Ireland that are not activated.
Do you know why it didn't work with Bluetooth? I had to plug in the wire to my phone. It wouldn't work with Bluetooth for some reason, but it should work. But I don't know why.
And fail to encourage enough apprenticeships in key construction trades.
There's no more
Where the
phone.
number of apprenticeships in bricklaying is just
I don't know why my computer's working now.
of
It's working. I'm watching it now
where
on the screen.
plastering is just 17% of 2006 levels. They're voting confidence in a minister more interested in spin than delivering homes that people need. A government that forever tells us what they are going to do in future in housing, but cannot stand over the record of what they have done. A minister that keeps on missing the targets that he has set himself on the delivery of affordable cost rental and social homes. A government that is congratulating itself that 28,000 new homes will be completed this year, when even the Department of Housing admits that we need at least 42,000 new homes each and every year. TDs that back the Minister for Housing are voting confidence in the government that has blown the chance to borrow billions at historically low interest rates to invest in building the tens of thousands of public homes that we need, and a government that has failed to make the most of the suspension of the EU fiscal rules to invest in much needed social and affordable homes. Karen Corley, there may well be a majority in this Dáil that will vote confidence in the Minister for Housing, but make no mistake, outside in the real world, where people are paying higher and higher rents, where people are living in constant fear of becoming homeless, and where people are worrying will they ever be able to afford a place on their own that they can call home. Outside in the real world, there is no confidence in this minister or in this government on housing. There is only despair, there is a lack of hope, there is a constant worry of how this housing disaster is impacting people's children, their families and across society. This, Karen Corley, is what we must change.
Thank you, Deputy Callahan. Now, Minister Pascal sharing with Minister Jack Chambers, Deputy Stephen Matthews.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Matthew McGrath or something.
Voting for confidence in Minister Darrell
I'm
O'Brien
sure you
this
are,
evening, not just because of his incredible dedication to his role, his resilience, and his effort that he puts in to make a difference
I see
to
no
all
effort.
that this government wants to do better by. I'm not voting for him this evening just because of those qualities that I see on a regular basis. I'm voting for him because of the difference that I see him making.
Sorry.
And I
Put
see
on a
him
more
making
comfortable jacket.
in my own constituency, in my own party.
Oh, Teoto, exactly.
Now, a list isn't
Exactly it is.
the most attractive part of any speech, particularly debate.
Yeah, it'll probably happen again and again.
But it's a list that must go.
We might as well know what the enemy's doing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Because of
What
a
they're
list
saying.
of new homes.
Because again, when
It's
the
a
election
list
comes
of
around, we have to know what
difference
they're
that has
talking
been
about, what the bullshit and
It's a
that,
list
and who's
of
actually wrote it down.
examples
Because again,
of
regardless of,
that
we have to see what
minister
to say.
has played a critical role in. Sean Foster
Billions of waste, yeah, exactly. And they're getting a 7,000 pay rise, so don't worry, they won't starve. None of them are going to starve tonight, don't worry.
56 homes.
They're all looked after.
Dorset Street, 63 homes. St Finbarr's Court, 46 homes. Infirmary Road, 38 homes. They're not homes that are being delivered by some unbridled free market that Deputy MacDonald made reference to earlier on. They're homes that are being built by Dublin City Council, in which we have families, tenants that needs homes that are being moved into. And I experienced...
Now the computer's working, like I'm not going to know who's speaking on the computer, but this is, the volume's coming across. And now it's working when I don't want it, when I'm fucking used to it.
Worried about their
Those who
rent,
come to your
worried
clinics, I
about
don't
where
think
they're
anybody
going to
bother
live.
coming to you.
And the lived experience that you refer to, that we on this house
It's
experience
a
as
high,
well
okay.
in our clinics and in the work we do, is also to a degree matched by the reality of the homes that I see.
Reality, oh no.
The families who are moving into them, the tenants who are moving into them as well. I'm only getting going actually.
Oh, you're
let me
only
go
getting
into some
going.
of
Oh,
the
well,
homes
focus
that
on the
are being
Audi. We'll be
delivered.
here all night
Let
listening
me
to
talk
this.
about the homes that are in planning at the moment. 124 homes in Constitutional Hill, 92 homes in Mott Talbot. Let me talk about the work our approved housing bodies are doing. Ellis Court, 22 homes. Connacht Street, 20 homes. Railway Street, 47 homes.
Fucking
Norgrave
Tim
George's
fucking
Street,
Twos
Charles
too.
Street, 52 homes. Halton Street,
I'll be drinking
12
tonight in the
homes.
Doorbell, don't we?
Now,
Yes,
I
sir.
know for every home I list there,
Every
this
home.
government wants to see more built and is determined to make a difference. But these are homes that are either being built, are in the planning process, or are funded and will be happening in the lifetime of this government because of Housing for All and because of the work of Minister Dara O'Brien. And let me tell you just how hollow the Sinn Féin claims
Hollow, yeah,
are
you're
this
hollow.
evening, in that their front bench spokesperson, Deputy O'Brien, can't even bother to be here for the debate this
Who's
evening.
Deputy, hey.
Where are you? Is that how little, is that how little,
Oh,
is
shit,
that
let's
how
fight.
little, is that how little confidence you have in
Where's
your
Ivana
own
Patrick?
policies
Yeah, where,
that
she'd be
your
asking
own
where's Ivana Patrick, the
spokesperson
Labour
won't be here
leader.
this
Where's the
evening
Labour
to
leader?
make the
The
claim
woken
for?
class.
And
We're for the woken
I
class. But we're not going to bother to turn up to Donald
They won't
Elmer
be
to
here.
fight for you.
Because the Sinn Féin answer to every difficulty that this government knows,
Like if Ivana Patrick's gone, she's
to
not coming back.
everything we need to make a difference to, is they say, well, the answer is we need to spend more, we need to do more. I listened very attentively to the speech from Deputy MacDonald and the housing spokesperson when he graced us with his presence in the Dáil debate.
Well, where's Ivana
And what they
Patrick?
said is,
You know,
well, you will build more
somebody asked
homes
that too.
with more money. Is that all you have to offer? Is that all you have to offer when you make the same claim, you make the same case
The same
for every
claim.
difficulty that is raised with you, for every problem you want
I'm going to
to
move my
make
tablet
a
over here.
difference?
Is that okay?
Last Count Corla, change is not promising everything to everybody. That's not change. That's not positive change. It's cynicism. It's not change. It's populism. It's not policies. It's vitriol. And actually what we need is a vision that can make a difference. And what I see
I'd
in
be
the
laughing at
work
us, exactly.
of Minister O'Brien, a man that, and a colleague that I am also privileged to serve with, is a plan.
Oh,
that
so
we
your woman
know
Catherine
needs
Connolly
to
that's
do
on the
better.
fucking
A plan that we
camcorder
know
chat.
needs to deliver more, and it will,
Your man, your
due
woman,
to
though.
Minister O'Brien and due to the commitment and work of this
There's the
government.
Minister,
And
Sheila
in
Naughton, the
contrast,
Minister of Special Education.
we have
Not
an
doing much
opposition,
either.
particularly
Like all of them
a
there,
Sinn
like
Féin
none of them are doing
opposition
anything good.
here.
The only one there
Who
is probably
said they
doing
want to
something.
build more
His head up,
homes,
to be totally
they
honest.
want to deliver
Head was
more
doing
rental
at least something.
accommodation, when you've turned landlords,
But all the West
developers
and the
and
Stephen Downey and all
banks
them, no good.
all into
Not necessarily
terms
no good.
of abuse. That's what they are in your lexicon. That's what they are in your
Eamon Ryan's
world.
fucking off now.
The people we need to build more homes, the people we need to lend more money to get those homes built, those who we need to come back in to provide rental accommodation, in your world, they're terms of abuse, and they have been throughout this Dáil and before. And when you then say, well, we will spend more, we will build more, with what money? From where? Is it the corporate tax revenues that everybody's raising us worthiness that we shouldn't spend? Is it the corporate tax from the companies whose executives you don't want here, whose workers you want to tax more, whose data centres you want to run out of this country?
One out of them was a fucking here on a holiday to pay nothing.
needs
So
to
I
be
don't
done.
think you won a
We
lot
know
of
we
the
need
stuff.
to make
Yeah,
a
pay
difference,
nothing.
but in Housing for
And I know
All
there are
and in
more
Minister
speakers.
O'Brien, we have a plan that is making a difference in my constituency, in my part of Dublin. And
Aye,
it's
and
doing
I'm waiting
the
to see
same
if I'd
the
be
length
fucking
and
falling
breadth
down.
of
The Healy ways, get the Healy ways up. Fucking clapping, who's clapping?
Saskia Corla, people
Somebody's there,
before
fucking
profit
pig shed
made a
NGO.
motion of, conference
Who's this
motion.
now? Oh, Jack Chambers.
Speakers left now, and there's, I don't know
Yeah,
how you divide
I'll
it.
try and get through it. Table no confidence motion, Minister O'Brien.
Oh, you
You're
no
gonna get
confidence
some
in
easy
it, I
media headlines and some cheap digs at this government. It's a tired, cynical game which is straight out of the Sinn Féin.
Aye, but there are some
statement.
clowns, you know.
It's
all
being
of them
seen
that
for
do
what
that.
it is, a stunt which won't see a single house built. No solutions, no ideas, no legislation. Housing and delivery on housing is the number one issue for this government. Minister O'Brien and this government have already introduced a raft of actions to increase supply and will produce more in the coming days. All in all, Minister O'Brien has passed 17 pieces of legislation over the past 2 years across areas as varied as the winter eviction ban to protect renters, new strategic approaches to delivery, enhancing affordability, and 11 of those pieces of legislation have been completed this year alone. Just last night I saw Minister O'Brien engaging with homeowners who are impacted by defects. I saw a minister who is absolutely sincere, who understands the issues and is dedicated to seeing follow through. For people out there, I want to set out the fundamental difference in approach between this government and the opposition. People before profit and Sinn Féin want to pull the wool over the eyes of those seeking to buy their own homes. They don't want you to know that the state is now the biggest actor in housing when it comes to
Aye, well, they don't want you to have
affordability
anything.
and
That's
social
that's the
housing.
that's
They
the
don't
end
want
goal.
to accept the scale of intervention, €4 billion
But
in
but totally honest, I feel the fault to get asked the same thing. They don't want anyone to
plan
want
on a
anything.
scale not seen in the history of the state.
You're
Sinn
not going
Féin
to be happy,
proposed
don't you?
€2.8 billion a year in their submission Housing for All,
And
now
particularly
say
again, they don't hate
€4
private
billion
rights.
is
They hate
not
property
enough.
rights.
So more homes with less funding. How does that stack up? Sinn Féin have
shouting?
also proposed a tax credit for renters.
Probably would, yeah, but again, Irish government
cost
don't have a
300
fucking clue
million
how to do
when it
things.
cost 600 million.
I wait to see
Again,
probably a
an
bit of greed and
uncosted
a
and
few
a
brown
plan that is
envelopes
not
and that.
credible. That people don't accept the interventions from Minister O'Brien around protecting renters, around increasing supply and driving affordability housing. They don't recognise that Part 5 has been increased to 20%, progressing a residential land zone tax as well as a vacant homes tax. These are the facts rather than the ongoing rhetorics. They want to cut the legs from private supply at a time when every avenue must operate in tandem. Those who need housing right now want delivery, not dogma. They want affordability. That means a land development agency, which many in the opposition
Stephen
proposed
Matthews,
against.
you say.
Yeah, I'll just conclude now. 27,000 residential units this year.
Stephen
8,000
Matthews,
social
who's
housing
Stephen Matthews?
social homes, and I
He's he's Social Democrat.
You've just been left with a minute and a half.
No, before he's not there, which is good.
The house crisis is the foremost challenge. That
Who are
we face,
you? And
notice
I know
most
the
of
name, but I don't know who
opposition
you.
bench is missing. Their spokesperson, their deputy leader, and their leader. It's a pity they didn't stay for the complete debate. We need to build thousands of houses.
Who are you? You're
We
fucking
need
up.
to build thousands of houses. That's Count Corla. I can't speak with
Oh
you
no,
this
it's the
minute.
Green Party. Oh, he has some
There.
guff now.
Thank you.
Green
That
Party.
tenure mix will consist.
Oh, fight, lads, fight. Oh, here.
Count Corla, I hope you'll add, last Count Corla, I hope you'll add the time on for me there,
Right,
please.
here,
for
get
the
up.
constant
Fight,
interruptions
draw
of
now.
the
Get out.
opposition.
Yeah, we'll go.
Prepare to listen and listen to some of the facts. And
Oh, well,
information.
facts. Oh, fucking
We need to
Green Party with
revitalise
facts.
their
Green
consent.
Party
We
with
need to
facts.
address their
Oh no.
vacancy.
Eamon Ryan with some facts, is it? Green Party. I seen you before, but I totally honest. I never heard of
secure
you before.
tenancies,
I know your name.
affordable rents, and well-designed, sustainable.
I thought it was Social Democrat.
My party chose to come to government. To
Oh,
make
did you,
decisions
Sam?
to enable us to deliver on the housing challenge, on cost rental. And
No, you
vacancy.
just fucked us over.
But
Your
others chose
carbon
to
taxes,
sit
the
it out.
cuts and the
Complain
cuts
to be
in
concerned about climate, but leave it to others to take the hits. To contribute nothing but criticism and slogans. To object to everything. To claim to be worried about the loss of nature. Yet in their time-wasting call for no confidence, they've denied the opportunity for our leading Minister on Nature and Biodiversity, Malcolm Noonan, to lead on the world stage at COP15. That's what you've done with this waste of time motion tonight. This government, through Minister O'Brien, has introduced
Someone
a
must
vast
give
range
it
of
a fuck,
legislation to address these matters. The Land Development Agency Act, the Affordable Housing Act, the Maritime Area.
And who is this helping?
Act,
Like, I
and Marine
don't
Protected Areas legislation very shortly to protect and conserve. Last King Curler, there was continuous interruptions. I hope you'll allow me a little more time.
Get on with it.
We're currently carrying out the most significant piece of planning reform and improvement since the 1963 and 2000 Act, and that will deliver. We've introduced zoned land tax, vacant homes tax, capturing the state land value uplift from zoning, and town centres first as our leading policy.
Bang!
I am
Bang
working
the
with
bell!
Minister
Bang the
O'Brien and team in the
bell!
Custom
Bang the
House,
bell all
chairing
the
the
time.
Housing Committee.
Oh,
I know
wish,
first-hand
wish,
commitment
wish,
to housing
wish.
and homelessness and the huge
Keep
range of
banging the
issues
bell.
within his remit. So, if any of people before profit ever wants to drop into the committee to actually learn about what's going on in the legislative process, I'd be delighted to make time for you. And however, having the correct information and facts would probably not suit your narrative. I conclude, Count Corler, by stating I have confidence in Minister O'Brien to continue to deliver on these critical issues for our country.
For the voices that are coming from here, this was an 11-minute slot. I didn't divide up the time. Okay, thank you. So, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Fight going on, fight going on.
There was a robust intervention.
Thank you.
I'm going.
Well, they should be there all night,
I'm
Carl.
going back to Sinn Féin, and this is a 5-minute slot, so it's 2 minutes, 1.5 and 1.5. So I have to Morris Quinlivan.
Who's Morris Quinlivan?
Oh, okay, I just have the wrong name here. Yeah.
Real test for this government. In almost 3 years from the general election, you have failed, and you have failed spectacularly. Your inability and continued failures are now so bad, they're undermining our health system, our education system, and our businesses, and pushing another generation of people.
Where's Matthew McGrath? Somebody get Matthew up and call
Affordability is through the roof.
Call him a
Today,
few
a
names.
3-bedroomed house in Edgeworthstown will set you back €1,500 a month. Longford, a county that didn't qualify for an affordable housing scheme.
Where's the heat
In
waves?
Westmead, €1,800 a month in Athlone.
€1,800 a month for Westmead. What the fuck's in Westmead that you're paying €1,800 for? €1,800 in Westmead, are you fucking well? Who is
of similar
buying
properties
stuff
on
in
the
Westmead?
market? And I could go on and on, Minister, on and on with the
€1,800 for what? In place in Westmead, are you well?
pleading for help to get a home.
For
the
when?
principal with their woodwork teacher living in their box room, the renting grandparent under notice to quit, moving into their adult children's home. Yet during this time, we have a minister who was borderline gaslighting the public with statements of there being no housing crisis.
Yeah, but this is in Westmead. This is not a city. Westmead's in
that
fucking
people
back end
just
nowhere.
don't feel it yet, as if it's somehow their problem and not the problem of failed policies. Now, all the photo ops and glossy brochures produced by the minister will not deflect from the cold hard fact that you are failing miserably. Pick up a Goodbody stockbrokers report. Pick up an
Pick up a body addiction.
report.
Pick up a
Look
body,
at the
what?
commencements down, the planning applications
Inciting
down,
violence,
and
inciting
all the while
violence.
there's a capital underspend. Is it any wonder so many people across this country have never been more pessimistic about owning a home? The fact is, the longer Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are in government, the worse this housing crisis is going to get.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. But still, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, Ara, it is incredible
Wouldn't mind if you won the
to
city
hear
centre,
the Taoiseach suggest
Oh, it's this
that when
way,
he
yeah.
hears anger from the opposition
Right, go
on the
with that,
issue of housing, that it is rehearsed anger.
Oh,
And if
Matt
I
Carty
ever
said- Matt
needed
Carty
any more
gets up for it,
clarity
I'm
in
not
terms
gonna give
of
this.
the attitude of government towards housing and the fact that they just simply don't get it, it was from the Taoiseach here tonight. And I
I
heard
give
from
Matt Carty
an
one thing,
Tara
and he's a
Ryan,
good speaker
who happens
now.
to be missing
He's able to
also
speak now.
a hafta. He suggested that opposition
Like, you wouldn't be able
parties
to.
are
I wouldn't be
engaging
able to
individually
debate him.
politics.
Like,
That
if I
it's
was able
old
to, like,
versus
take
young,
for example,
that
if
it
he
is
was here right
urban
now, I wouldn't be able to
versus
beat him
rural.
in a
Well,
debate. Because he actually would win wings around me, because he's able to
If
speak
this
so
government has
quickly
done one
and
thing,
think on his
it has
head.
been able to
You
unite
know, he's able just to speak so
people in
wackily.
rural areas, people in urban areas,
So you
older
know,
people,
you're
younger
basically
people,
just debating
all
yourself
under
a
the
bit.
same issue of not being able to access secure and affordable housing. It is impacting those people in our cities, it is impacting the people in our rural areas, and it is even impacting people in our offshore islands. And it is not just impacting young people, it is seriously impacting older people. When I see people coming into my clinics, people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, who can't access housing, a man who is nearly 70, who is paying over €1,000 extra over HAP, and unable, and knows once he retires he won't be able to afford that anymore. And we had a week in Galway City where 6 households were turned away from emergency accommodation. That resulted in 6 people living in their cars and 3 in tents. So what we have is a situation coming up to Christmas is that there's no room at the inn for Galway City homeless, and there are certainly no wise men in this government who are going to do anything about it.
No wise men anyway.
John Brady.
Oh, John Brady, yeah. Number 40, why is she sitting there?
Why I have no confidence.
I hope she
in
doesn't
you.
get up because
this
she
is
has
the number of homeless people in emergency accommodation during October, and many more are sleeping rough tonight on the streets of this capital and on streets and towns right across this state. This winter, where the last week has brought even more untold hardship, suffering and indeed death on our streets. The housing emergency, the crisis, the debacle which you oversee as the member of government responsible for housing is soul destroying. Generations of ordinary people have been locked out of home ownership.
Just give me a second, I think my phone's
Rents
just
that are
freezing.
amongst the highest in Europe are leaching the light bulb.
Sorry, I tried and refresh, sorry. My phone froze there.
Percent. My own county
Apologies
of
for that.
Wicklow, which has the highest rent in the country outside of Dublin, witnessed a year-on-year increase of rent of 16.6%, Minister. Rents are rising at the highest rate now since the height of the Celtic Tiger era. This equates to an average cost of €1,846 per month for ordinary people to fork out amongst the...
But thanks for the go down and have a council house because I couldn't afford that now. Even though I'm working, I couldn't afford it.
Is a measure of
I couldn't
your
afford to pay
failure,
€1,000.
a failure that continues to ruin the lives of so many people right across this state. Minister, it's time for you to go. In fact, it's time for this entire government to go.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on.
Members of your government are funding judicial reviews of major developments in Delgany, in Enniskerry, in towns right across Wicklow.
Deputy Brady. Deputy Crowe. Deputy Brady. Thank you.
Yes, that's what members of your government are. Serial objectors.
Banging the bell.
Deputies.
Oh no, wish the fight got. Oh, I should be getting up to beat each other now.
Deputy Crowe, Deputy
Crowe,
Brady, I'm about to abandon the session.
Abandon the
I
session.
understand the anger, I understand robust debate, but this is not
You abandoned, you just.
It's not going to continue. Thank you.
Like a teacher. It's like a teacher in school.
Moving on to people before profit.
Who?
Deputy Richard Boyd Barrett,
Oh, which Boyd
5
Barrett?
minutes.
Right, we're going to listen to some. And I.
30.
30?
5 and 1.5,
Yeah.
I got it.
I was going to say you've.
People Before Profits No Confidence motion had nothing to do with Dara O'Brien as an individual, personally. It had nothing to do with cynicism, and it certainly wasn't a stunt. What it is a desperate attempt to force the government to acknowledge that its housing policies are failing real human beings, thousands and thousands of them, in the most terrible way. It's about more than 3,000 children who are going to spend Christmas in emergency accommodation, some of them for the second, third and fourth time. It is about the fact that we have 100,000 families and individuals who are on housing waiting lists in desperate circumstances, waiting a decade, sometimes up to 20 years, for a secure, affordable roof over their head. It is about the fact that thousands of people are facing the imminent prospect of being evicted from their homes, even though the government claimed that they had protected them from those things. It is about the fact that the 4 Dublin City councils did not add a single new council house to the public housing stock in the first half of this year, despite the fact that we are facing an unprecedented housing crisis. It is the fact that we have failed to spend, or this government has failed to spend, €750 million when we are facing this absolute catastrophe affecting children, families, individuals, workers who are at the wrong end of this housing crisis. That is why we put it forward. And of course, in order to ensure that we couldn't present our alternative proposals, which we have done again and again and again, the government put forward their own motion So people before profit have 6.5 minutes to make their case, whereas if our motion had gone ahead, we would have had 40 minutes. Instead, we have a cacophony of people standing up saying how wonderful the government policy is and how well it is working. And that is typical of the manipulation and the spin that goes on when we are dealing with an absolute catastrophe facing families out there. You see, I'll just give a couple of examples of who really matters here. Jacqueline and Richard, in their 50s, with 2 teenage children, who on Thursday rang me up, bawling, crying, because they got a notice saying they're going to be in court in February, when there's supposed to be an eviction ban, to throw them out of the house where they have lived all their lives. These are people, working people, paid their taxes. Nothing this government has done will protect them or provide them with a home. And they are terrified they will be in a car. Jacqueline is terrified, literally, that Richard will not survive this. It is about a woman of 55 who's on dialysis treatment for 9 hours a day and puts in an application for medical housing priority last November, and they are still looking for additional medical information before they can process her application. It is about a 73-year-old man who, with a spinal condition, who's living on his daughter's couch. But still, the council are looking for more information about his health. It's about a 59-year-old man with Alzheimer's who's been in 7 different HAP tenancies in 9 years, when doctors have said specifically he needs a secure, affordable place where he's not moving around. That is what's going on out there. And these things have been said again and again to the minister. And then, during the summer, we put forward precisely a motion, as we put forward bills to reduce rents, the right to housing bill, bill to stop evictions where there is no fault or where people are being evicted on grounds of sale, use it or lose it policies, to establish a state construction company, to accelerate the delivery of public housing on affordable land. The government vote against them all. Why? Well, if you ponder the fact that Cairn Homes profits increased by 129% last year, and Irish Reid, the biggest landlord in the country, is making 50% profit on every tenant, you have some idea what's really going on. 3,500 children forced to spend Christmas in emergency accommodation. Some of them for the second Christmas, some for the third, some even for the fourth. €20,000 a year to rent a house in Cork City. 25,000 euro a year in Dublin. The price of a house gone up more in 1 year than the wages of many young workers in total during that year. A generation of young people who cannot afford to
like I know one business that only gives them a €5 wise, and that's probably gone up there. That's all they got, €5 wise for this year.
Minister,
for the last
answer me a couple of questions. Why, when
So
apartment starts are down
off getting it, not
29% into 3 months to October, and housing starts down 23%, do you not step up public house building? Do you not make the case for public house building to be absolutely key? And instead, you don't shut down this nonsense about gifting developers more tax breaks. Why did you appoint an individual to the board of the Housing Finance Agency when SIPO had made a significant ruling against that person? I have no confidence in this minister, no confidence in this government, and no confidence in the capitalist market for solving the housing crisis. They are all, Ceann Comhairle, part of the problem rather than part of the solution.
Now moving it back to the government, it's an 11-minute slot. Minister Michael
Thank you very much, Last Ceann Comhairle, and I stand to support Minister Darragh O'Brien, and I look forward to voting confidence in him this evening. And I do so because I see every day the work that he is doing. I know that he absolutely cares about the people who are affected by the homelessness crisis.
Foley's probably going to get up.
And the people who aspire to home ownership. And I also know that he cares about those who are now being placed in housing because of the massive increase in home building that this state is engaging in. That he also cares about the people who are now benefiting from new cost rental homes for the first time in the history of our state. And because I know that he cares about all of those who are now applying for and successfully achieving affordable housing for the first time in this country in well over a decade. The motion put before us this evening, as has been said, will not build a single home. It is full of criticisms. It is about politics. It is about competition between the opposition. I've worked closely with Minister O'Brien every single day. He works harder than anyone in this House to address and tackle the housing crisis. That is the truth. He has secured an extra €11 billion in the National Development Plan.
And where is that going? I would love to see where that money is going to.
In 2016, the housing capital budget was €435 million. In 2020, it was €1.4 billion. Next year, it will be €2.3 billion. Added to by the Land Development Agency and the work of the Housing Finance Agency. In 2016, 604 social houses were built in this country. The last government increased investment and increased the number of homes that were being built. Last year, it was over 5,200 homes in terms of social housing. When you add acquisitions, you add leases, over 9,200 homes were added to the public housing stock despite COVID-19. Minister O'Brien has delivered a range of new affordable housing measures that have been put in place. A new affordable housing fund, a new affordable housing grant of €150,000 per unit. The Help to Buy scheme has been extended by Minister Donoghue. The LDA has now been put on a statutory footing, and we have a first home shared equity scheme up and running. We have opposition parties that simply, if they were to tell the truth, do not believe in home ownership, that have come up with affordable housing schemes where the applicants will never actually own the house itself. We have a rapidly growing population in Ireland, and despite all of your attempts to portray Ireland as some kind of a failed state,
beyond the failed state,
all over the world want to come to our country to build their life, to build their careers.
Failed state is beyond words.
We've had net inward migration every single year, long before the war, long before the international protection crisis. This year, we'll have net inward migration of over 61,000 people. Our population is up by over 500,000 since 2011, and it underlines the scale of the challenge that we face. The irony in your motion is that while you condemn capitalism, you talk about developer-led, you talk about market-based, your motion also laments the fact that there are indications that private supply is slowing, and you don't seem to see the irony in that. You never talk about the hard yards, the issues that are actually involved in delivering housing supply, the reforms to the planning system, access to affordable finance, the apprenticeship system, tackling materials inflation, land availability, access to private capital. If we want to deliver 33,000 homes per year, and you say we need more than that, we need at least €7.5 billion in private capital to complement what the state is doing. And the truth is that the opposition in this House are hostile to private investment, are hostile to the market. You think we can just say we will build 20,000 social and affordable homes and it will happen just like that. And you say that you'll spend all the money that we have. We have that money because we did not pursue the anti-enterprise policies that you advocate, because we did not oppose every EU treaty, we did not oppose every free trade agreement that this country has signed up to. Were we to do that, we would not have the resources that Minister
if you're not being a good boy
using
and don't
to tackle
look
this
after
housing
people.
crisis in the best and most effective way we possibly can.
There are two speakers left. Minister O'Gorman.
Minister, what did you do? Oh shit, fight.
Deputies.
Thank you, last Kim Corla. When this government took office, it was made clear that delivering on housing would be our number one priority. And at a time of global upheaval, whether it be with COVID, cost of living pressures, or the war in Ukraine, the government have sought to deliver on that.
No, Foley, if she gets up now, there's going to be war. She has some guff now.
We underestimate the challenges involved, nor do we underestimate the awful impact that the housing crisis has on so many of our citizens. And that's why the government is working to deliver on our commitment to provide social housing, to provide affordable housing, and to provide affordable rental. And there can't be any end to the challenge we face in terms of housing until we see an increase in supply, and supply is now increasing. To the end of September, over 55,000 homes
exactly,
were either
but
commenced or completed.
If they just I think they'll just make it up as they go along.
Only a month ago, the Taoiseach, Minister O'Brien and I and others, we saw already under construction the first phase of the Churchfield development, built by Fingal County Council, funded by the huge capital investment that Minister O'Brien has secured. That's going to deliver over 300 social, affordable and cost rental homes in the middle of my constituency. And these positive developments, they're not just happening in Dublin West. Work has already commenced on the largest public housing scheme in the state in Shangana, in Shankill, in County Dublin. The Shangana development will deliver 597 social and affordable homes, and the first of these will be completed in 2024. And importantly, over half of these homes will be cost rental, and cost rental is a vital new form of tenancy in Ireland, introduced by this government. A total of 900 cost rental homes have been improved in Ireland in just over a year since the Affordable Housing Act was enacted, providing the basis for this new sector. And by 2030, we aim to have 18,000 cost rental homes in the state. And I believe the introduction of cost rental as a new form of tenure will be one of the most important legacies introduced by this government. To conclude, Ceann Comhairle, and just on a final point, through managing the housing crisis, we have of course had to manage the crisis created by the war in Ukraine and the real pressures that the arrival
Putin can't let us build any houses.
Provided in terms of housing and in terms of services. But throughout that, and I want to recognise the work that Minister O'Brien has done in terms of supporting my government, being a staunch voice in support of our Ukraine response, whether it be setting up community fora, whether it be resourcing directors of services for Ukraine response in every local authority across the country, whether it be mobilising rest centres, work on pledged properties,
as I said years ago, I don't know how to
of institutional
as I said, there's housing estates up in the town there. They built 400 or 500 in 20 years. 400 or 500.
He is rising to in terms of delivering housing and responding to the crisis, has assisted the huge work this government is doing on Ukraine. I want to express my thanks to him, and I know that work will continue with him in his role as Minister for Housing. Thank you, Ceann Comhairle.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. Ceann Comhairle, if I was to be politically brutally honest, I would say one of Fianna Fáil's mistakes in recent years was extending confidence in supply beyond 3 years. It was compounded probably when we voted confidence in that government's housing minister and its housing policy. But it did allow the opposition, of course, the opportunity to portray Fianna Fáil as compliant and complicit in Fine Gael and Labour's policies since 2011. But as we all know, it simply wasn't the case. But despite that misrepresentation, we emerged from the election as the largest party. We had a responsibility to form a government. We sought to do so and put a programme for government in place, while you ran to the hills when this country needed to overhaul housing policy. And that programme for government
Just need to reload for a second. Give me 2 seconds.
He's enacted 22 acts, more than 3 predecessors before him today.
or you don't answer the
Sorry,
phone,
everyone, apologies.
or ever
Somebody was
look
at the door with
at
Christmas
your
card.
emails, because if you did, you would know what it is
They're
like for
asking for
people
me.
out there, and you would understand why
It's
we are
it's a no
supporting
command on the road.
this, we are opposing this motion of
I
confidence.
put it up.
Minister McGrath says he knows that Minister O'Brien cares.
Sorry about that. I couldn't.
But we're not talking
I could
about
not just not go and talk.
compassion deficit this evening. We're talking about a competence deficit. It is not personal, it is about policies. And your policies, as delivered by your minister, are failing on every measure. The minister is responsible for the highest rents, the highest house prices and the highest levels of homelessness ever seen. He is quite the record breaker, is Minister O'Brien. And the evidence of the O'Brien effect can be seen in all of the parents that are saying goodbye to their adult children in Dublin Airport, and those who will spend their last Christmas with their kids as they head abroad. And don't take my word for it. Listen to what Mr O'Brien's constituents say. Breda said she was private renting for almost 2.5 years. The house was sold, the tenancy notice validated. She's currently couch surfing on her sister-in-law's sofa in Balbriggan.
I don't get the
Registered
last
with Fingal
bit,
County
but,
Council, been accepted
Yeah,
for social
train
housing, but
like,
cannot
that's nice.
find
Yes.
anywhere
Christmas
to
gardens.
live. She's going to
That's
viewings, she's doing everything. She is
I can't
still
understand
sleeping
the
on a
last bit, but-
sofa. And it's
Until
not just
30 years.
individuals, it's
They can only
impacting on
rely-
business.
No, I put
Tommy
that
Fannin,
towards
the
up
head
for
of
now.
strategic policy at the IDA, said the lack of housing is a major problem.
Oh yeah,
So
just
it
saying
is
about
not
good,
a
yeah, the good work
compassion
that you're doing.
deficit. It is
I
a
couldn't understand the joint
competence
right in the south
deficit,
understand
which
that.
is why this minister needs to
That's
go.
nice, put that
And while he's at it, he can take the resties with him.
Yeah, take the resties when you get rid of you. I put that down.
Cora, you might give me guidance if we're to
Matt
use
Gaffney,
Minister
right.
O'Donoghue's metric as to what it says about government's confidence in the minister and his policies, with the fact that neither the Taoiseach or the Taoiseach could remain in this chamber, because for all of the bluff and the bluster,
Oh, the bluff and the bluster, oh, the bluff and the bluster, lads, now, yes.
from government's deputies, they can't hide
Aye.
away.
Oh, no,
from
but it was
the
nice of them,
fact
I had to
that
go
their
downstairs, I'll do
housing
about that.
policies are failing.
Uh,
They can't hide away.
No,
from
we're
the
not doing
truth
this,
that
maybe
their
next we
housing
take it.
Minister is
But,
failing.
that's a local
Far
woman,
from
and
resolving the housing
That's nice, I put
emergency,
it down.
the minister denies that there is an emergency at all. The minister, of course, was not of Minister O'Brien's making, although his party played a starring role, but he has
I'm gonna show
singularly
you on my
failed
Christmas card,
to
but
get
I'm
to
gonna see
grips
it.
with it. On
I
all
did,
of
but
the
you probably seen them
parameters
in
that
the back.
matter to real people, the figures don't lie.
Sorry
The
about
highest
that.
levels
Sorry,
of
I just left
homelessness
because,
records began and getting
I heard
worse.
somebody,
The highest
you know,
price,
somebody
house
chatting up to
prices
me there.
on record
To
and getting
tell me
worse.
somebody's here.
The highest rents in the history of the state, and
So
they
I couldn't,
continue
couldn't
to
have
soar.
not go on.
Minister O'Brien has established himself as the Harry Kane of
Harry
Irish
Kane.
politics, missing targets and missing them wildly. But the minister has an advantage over Mr. Kane because he
Mr.
simply
Kane?
moves the goalposts. By
Yeah,
setting
well,
no
true that. The
targets
government keep
that he
moving the
knows go nowhere near the level of output that's required. to
No, we're
resolve
not doing.
the
We do.
daily
We do
crisis
next
that
year,
is
right?
the
So whenever you want
housing
to
reality
said
of
we
too
do.
many
We sorted
of
that
our
next year.
citizens.
I don't
And
have
the
it all
members
sorted out. But we
opposite,
sorted
of
that
course,
next year. So
know
that's fair
all of
enough.
this.
And I send
But
people
no
Christmas
doubt
cards
the
next year
minister
too.
will
Because
receive the
I just
support of
sorry,
the
Matt. I have
Gael
to just
and
shut you up
Fine
for
Gael
one
and Green
second.
Party TDs this evening.
You've given out to me now to shut them up. No, but next year we sorted that because this year was planned to send Christmas cards to everybody, but we didn't plan it in ahead of time. So we will do it next year. Now. We'll sort
In
that.
the
And
limbo
we
of
will.
emergency accommodation, or among Ireland's fleeced renters, or those
Also, I have something to show you.
on waiting
Do you
lists,
just 2
waiting
seconds.
years,
There's not.
with
No.
many more years of
Have a look at the
waiting.
cow for a second.
Those young people desperately trying to buy their first home, or the thousands of others who have lost
Next
hope
year, yeah.
and have scattered
Look,
away
here, look at the
to
cow
all
for a
corners of
second.
the world in search of a better life, then there would be no contest. It would be a clear, emphatic, no confidence in this government, no confidence in their failed housing policies, and no confidence in this minister.
agus Carol Nomads.
I'm tired of being good man, Barry.
Last time, Corley, I listened to the Taoiseach.
I got me Jack.
I have to say he excelled himself in his last week. Theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking, before he died, wrote about the possibility of there being a parallel universe. And the Taoiseach's speech was a parallel universe to the experience of most people living in this country at the moment. It's very clear, Minister, that the measure of success or failure for a Minister for Housing is the provision of an adequate number of houses. It's as simple as that for the people, either through public provision or a functioning market that can provide those houses. And on that basis, Minister, The government is failing severely. It's an incredible situation, and it gives me no pleasure to say it whatsoever. For this government to have adequate...
No, do not do that, Sean. No, we do it next year, is that okay? Next year, I promise we sort it out. But don't do it this year, is that fair enough? Because I'm already getting too much posts in relation to different things. So, is that okay next year? Don't do it this year, okay? Please. That's anybody. You can do it next year. I promise you can do it next year, okay? That's fair enough. Send it to Chris Scatterpatrick. Hope he replies. Yeah, you can tell me I got my fucking show. It took 9 years. But anyway.
In relation to commencement notices and the fact that they are significantly
What do we take?
down and likely to be
Like
significantly
new job.
down for next year.
I was hiding that. That's why I had the coat on all night. It's going to unveil it at any point.
Record local authority housing waiting lists.
No, don't send it.
record rents,
We work it out next year, okay? Is that okay? We work it out next year. We talk about it the month before, and we're not going to do it the last moment. That's fair enough. We'll work it out. We all work through it next year.
Streets in relation to this in our towns and cities. Ainto has found out that over 357
don't
people
question
have
about
died
this. Don't question
of
about this.
this capital alone in the last 5 years. An incredible figure, a national disaster equivalent to a 747 crashing in 5 years. And that's just this city. No other local authority in the state records the number of homeless people that dies in the streets. I have asked you to do that, Minister, and it hasn't been done. It's an incredible situation. And we have young couples who are putting off having their children because they're living in a box room.
Say hello, I think it did.
We have young parents who don't see their kids from one end of the week to the other because they're commuting 3 hours a day because they can't afford a home close to where they live. Teachers, Gardaí, nurses, we can't get the staff for our public services because they can't afford accommodation on the wages that they're in at the moment. And through all of this, we have a minister who's not doing what's necessary. We were the only state in the whole of
yeah, I
Europe
knew you were going to say
where
that.
house
That's
building
why I was hiding
closed
it.
for a
You
full
caught me in
quarter
the action.
during the COVID crisis. We were the only state
With smuggling
that
San
hasn't got
Marie
to grips
t-shirts
with
on
the
the
level
border too.
of vacant homes
Very
that
popular
exist
around
in
here
this country.
apparently.
It's
Everybody's
incredible
buying all
thing
these tops.
that the Minister
Like for Christmas.
Finance,
Everybody wants to buy a Santa
has
the Finnish
resisted
Prime Minister's
putting
top.
a tax on empty
It makes
homes for as
sense.
long as
It's
he
all
possibly
coming
could.
together.
And now there's a vacant home tax potentially in the offing that is nowhere near significant enough to actually change the behaviour of those people who are sitting on those homes and watching the prices of those homes increase at the moment. And the amount of, we have 160,000 vacant homes according to the statistics. We put a parliamentary question in recently. It showed that 392 homes have applied for the vacant property refurbishment grant.
Very guilty.
That's an incredible figure, a staggering figure compared to what's actually happening in terms of the number of vacant
But I do want to say, just don't say, nobody send me anything.
then
That's fair
there's
enough
the
this
provision
year.
of this.
Next year
The
we'll
fact
work
that
it out. Okay?
11
We'll work
local
something out.
authorities
Is
failed
that
to
fair
build
enough?
a single
Because
local authority
I
home
don't want
in the
anybody
first
sending
6
anything
months.
this year. Is that fair
3
enough?
Dublin councils failed to build a single home in the first 6 months. A total of 647 homes in the first 6 months. That is an incredible response to the enormity of a housing crisis that is bearing down so heavily on people's shoulders at the moment. And the reforms that you have managed to proceed with.
We talk about when
the
it comes.
government has
Okay,
been
we
forced
talk
kicking
about
and
that.
screaming to implement those. Airbnbs have been taking homes out of the long-term let market
I'm
for
trying to
so
listen to
long,
what these
and it's
cuts
only
is.
now that we're getting to grips with that. We have rent controls, eviction bans, and the reform of REITs and institutional investors.
Settle with the
Again,
revenue, yeah,
glacial
exactly.
reforms when they're needed the most. It really frustrates me, but this minister is in reverse, and he's following the same pattern of the previous ministers, and I can't support him.
Deputy Fitzpatrick.
That's Ken Collar. Darragh O'Brien took on the role of Housing Minister just over 2 years
Aye, did he now?
on the back of a global pandemic.
Aye.
The pandemic resulted in stalls in construction, and the Minister has since had to deal with the triple crisis, energy, cost of living, inflation, as well as the war, which impacted the supply and demand of material and labour, as well as an increasing number of people seeking asylum.
They shouldn't be laughing.
They're all outside of the Minister's control. I do acknowledge that planning permission is down by 41%. The level of housing starts is down. The number of homeless is the highest we have seen. These are all relevant facts. However, another relevant fact is that the overall housing delivery target of 24,600 new homes will be exceeded this year. The first affordable purchase homes in more than a decade will be delivered this year. Hundreds of cost rental tenants are now in safe and secure long-term rental homes, which didn't exist a little over a year ago. The biggest overhaul of planning legislation in 20 years will be brought to Cabinet today. Cancel culture is rift in this day and age. I must point out that overhauling an entire government isn't the solution. What then? We scramble to replace the housing minister or a new government. How will this help the people? How will that aid the homeless situation? Starting from scratch, they will go back to square one and are unwilling to wait any time for targets and goals to come to fruition. Goals can take time, and yet, while you can cherry-pick low-hanging fruit for quick gains, but long-term plans depend on everything falling into place. Unfortunately, the war has resulted in the increasing cost and increasing migration, which has hauled development and put pressure on our housing system. The Minister has consistently acknowledged that not everyone
is that okay if I want them to get tea? Just give me 2
and that it will take time. But progress is being made. In my opinion, the motion is simply opposition for opposition's sake. The opposition are saying that our housing system is broken, thanks to successful failure of government policies, and have reached breaking point on the government's failure to deliver. But they have not offered any solutions. They have not raised any innovation ideas in debates in the dawn. What we need is innovation ideas. We need to put our heads together. They're saying that we need a housing model that delivers housing from the state to meet the needs of people. How would this look? What do they propose? If they really wanted to help the people and not follow their own agenda, they would put forward ideas. Our political alliance does not come first. The people of Ireland must come first. I must hand it to Minister O'Brien because he is doing a good job. He is open to hearing any innovation ideas, such as when I proposed modular homes in the Dawn a couple of weeks ago. We had numerous discussions on this, and have since set a date for him to visit Dundalk and meet the developers. We need to stop playing political football and put our heads together to resolve homelessness and come up with innovation housing initiative.
Margaret. Alicia Rashford on Realtors. An 11-minute slot here with 3 speakers. Minister Charlie McConaughey. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Laskin Corla. And I rise here this evening to vote confidence and speak in confidence of Minister Darragh O'Brien, because this is a minister who's making a real impact on government, and it's a minister who has delivered an exceptionally radical plan, Housing for All strategy, the most radical plan in my view in the history of the state in terms of delivering for housing, and which has delivered 28,000 new homes this year in its first year, in the very first year of the plan, the largest number of new homes since the year 2008. This motion really is no more than a political stunt, but I think it's been very valuable at the same time, because no more than the opposition motion of no confidence in the government just a few short months ago, it has shown up the vacuousness of the opposition and their sheer lack of policy. Deputy MacDonald, in her contribution, and of course they have been trumped here by People Before Profit, their future partners in a left-wing government, because it was the People Before Profit initially moved this motion. But Deputy MacDonald, in her contribution, outlined how what we need is not this motion of no confidence tonight, but actually we need a general election immediately. So, presumably so that she can go into government with People Before Profit and with her left-wing friends, with Reid Smith, with Thomas Pringle, with Richard, with Paul Murphy, to deliver and solve the housing problem for us. I presume they're not going to pick any of the rural independents. They never mention them at all. Coalition of the left is what they want. So we know what that would do to the economy, and the great economy we have, which enables us to actually invest in housing. But somehow Deputy MacDonald thinks that that is what is going to deliver and solve the housing crisis. Well, we have another thing coming. I listened very carefully then to Deputy O'Brien, who's supposedly the housing guru for not just Sinn Féin, but this left-wing government as well. And, I mean, his contribution really, he said, our housing targets are not big enough, and the plan is failing, and it won't meet its targets. Then he went on then to give 3 sort of key points. It broke down to, we needed real action and vacancy, ignoring, of course, what the government's doing in relation to Croí Cónaithe, repair and lease, for example. Second point, he said we needed action on land use, again ignoring the zoned land tax we've introduced, the increased land value sharing legislation which we have before Cabinet just today, the vacant property tax we've introduced, or indeed the new planning reform bill which came before the Cabinet again today. I mean, the absolute biggest reform of housing policy, planning and development in the history of the state, brought forward by Minister O'Brien with our pioneering Attorney General Paul Gallagher, whose final week it is this week. And then third of all, then he said, we need real investment in social housing, ignoring, of course, that this year the government will deliver 9,000 social housing units, the largest ever in the history of the state. Then he finished off his great contribution. Now remember, this is the man who wrote 2 books, I think it is. I haven't read any of them, but listen to him today, you wouldn't think he'd wrote any either. He finished off his great contribution by saying, shame on you. No, and then he walked out, of course, yeah, of course. So, all we've got, and listen, that was representative of all we've got from the rest of the opposition tonight. All you have done is you've defined the problems which we are working to solve in government. You offered no solutions. Deputy MacDonald in her contribution pointed to the importance of, says she, the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Minister for Housing and Minister for Finance. Of course, Sinn Féin have had the Minister for Housing and the Minister for Finance in Northern Ireland up until the government fell there a month ago. What did that deliver? Well, last year in Northern Ireland, the average price of your average home in Northern Ireland last year with a Sinn Féin Housing Minister and Finance Minister, very important according to Deputy MacDonald, the average prices of a house in Northern Ireland last year rose by £18,000 sterling. 12% increase. With a Sinn Féin Housing Minister and a Sinn Féin Minister of Finance. Now, if you're looking to them, therefore, to deliver, well, their track record wouldn't speak very well in that regard. The key priority for me has been MICA, and Minister O'Brien has been working to deliver very hard in relation to that. We are making real impact. Legislation introduced, and we will see all homes in Donegal fixed. Again, if you look at Sinn Féin,
who was on before I left? You know, who was? Oh, Norman Foley said, well, Norman Foley speaking.
They promised that they would introduce their own legislation.
But again, I got pancakes.
They still haven't published it. 6 months ago now since we introduced the legislation, you still haven't published the legislation you promised. So again, if we're looking to you in that regard, there'll be very little delivery. I could go on, last year, but my colleagues will take over. Thank you.
Deputy Paul McCullen.
I'll get there. I think
no, before there was none of the independence.
We can all agree that for many, house prices are unaffordable, rents are too high, and there are an unacceptable number of people in temporary accommodation. But I rise to my feet to support Minister O'Brien because I believe he's leading the charge to address the housing crisis. As Vice Chair of the Housing Committee, I've had the opportunity to see him and his team at work over the past 2 years. In February 2020, when many new members of this House left behind their role as councillors and joined this House, those in all parties and none were frustrated by a decade of undersupply. We could see the problem getting worse and worse still before it might get better. Some in the House put their party first ahead of the emergency and resigned themselves to the comfort of opposition. But there were many of us hungry to see change and to do things differently. And there has been change, real change.
Talk about this information. Apologies again, I'm just eating.
Previously as councillors, we had 2 limited choices. We could build a low number of homes with low income limits, with low budgets and a low number of staff, or we could give that land, public land, away to developers with no certainty of delivery or supply. They were unacceptable choices. With a new minister and a new government, all that has changed. And we have a radically different housing plan which leads with public supply. Now, councillors, the length and breadth of the country, all around, on public sites, have greater budgets, more staff. They can build more homes which are available to more people. Those councillors can build below-cost affordable purchase. They can build below-cost secure and affordable rental like we see in many European cities. They can partner with approved housing bodies and the Land Development Agency, secure in the knowledge that there is multi-annual budgets. They can build 100% public housing on public land where that is needed. They can buy more land for future development. They can tackle vacancy and dereliction. They can identify unutilised zoned land and they can tax it. And even on the sites that they don't own, they can protect new homes for owner-occupiers. They can impose a new higher obligation for social and affordable housing. And while this and other supply measures come on stream, we've put in place protections and support with eviction bans, capping rents, capping deposits, rent credits, continue to help to buy scheme, and initiating the First Home Scheme. And again,
I don't think we'll because I think it's too bad.
We're presented with the opportunity to solve the housing emergency, Some in this House put their party first and they voted against these measures. They voted against the Land Development Agency bill. They voted against the Affordable Housing bill. They voted against the budgets that funded those. We have empowered councils to help solve the housing crisis. We've established and capitalised the National Land Development Agency, a housing body that will deliver homes that will rival anything in the history of this state. And to those who are listening outside this House, at home, who don't have a home, I know all this seems like white noise.
I don't know, it could be today.
You to know that change is happening. It's happening on the 25 public housing sites in my constituency alone. Planning is turning into building sites, and soon those building sites will turn into homes for you. We are not motivated by any investor or their dividends. We are motivated only by you and your housing need. And I promise you, this government and this minister has the ambition to solve this crisis. We have the money, we have the models, and we have our building momentum.
Dr. Francis Noel.
Who is clapping?
Access to a home is the issue of our time, and many are being restricted to a roof over their heads. A global depression, Brexit,
vote tonight, yeah, it is tonight. Yeah.
Unprecedented population growth, and Putin's war.
Putin, of course, Putin's been.
Hearts and minds might be bought by sophistry, but Housing for All contains
1 a.m.
solutions and funding to meet our crisis. To the stewardship of Minister O'Brien, I am proud to say that the Green Party has delivered 100% public housing on public land legislation. Green Party cost rental policy has firmly been actioned. The LDA alone have a remit to deliver 30,000 affordable, high-quality cost rental properties with succession rights. Our towns and villages are unique cultural settlements where 30% of our population live. Under this government, Green Party has actioned its town centres first policies, where grants of up to €75,000 per unit are available to tackle vacancy and dereliction, ensuring not only good quality housing, but also job opportunities, safe and accessible public spaces, good transport links, climate resilience, and the making of 10-minute towns. During this government, we have seen further Green Party policies actioned, including the abolition of co-living and the end of undemocratic strategic housing development systems. Working groups have been put in place to procure redress for owners of defective dwellings. Further to Minister Catherine Martin's work in the 32nd Dáil, I have tabled a defective dwellings bill which would secure a legal redress process for homeowners.
Oh, sorry, no document. That was
it. Is a key commitment secured in the programme for government
from the Green
by the Green Party, and wording is being procured currently. A right to a home should be in our constitution,
I knew
as it is a right to have an education. Over the past 2 years, I've participated in cross-party debates in Trinity and UCD, where the opposition spoke in favour of nationalisation of all homes in Ireland and the prohibition of a tenant purchasing their council house. My parents were afforded this opportunity. No party should keep people down. Our culture is stronger for liberating those who need help, and therefore have full confidence in the Minister. Thank you.
And we have 5 speakers. Richard O'Donoghue, Minister.
Thank you, Vasco.
Oh, wish we have some
Housing for all. Let's talk about Limerick. Land Development Agency set up in 2018. How many houses built in Limerick? I can't hear you, Pascal. None, is it? Oh, that's right. Limerick, none.
Very good man.
After how much? 1.25 billion.
Oh, he was, he's the one who worked to me, yeah, in the cabinet.
Not one house in Limerick. But each of you has...
Oh no, he's telling them facts now. Oh, Jesus.
That's the problem. You're talking about rural versus...
Oh, good man, give him a vote.
Problem.
He's fucking
37 years waiting for a sewage system in Askeaton where the sewage is going into the Shannon. And your government have promised to fix it, no delivery. Glynn, promised by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, no delivery.
He's going to give him a good tell,
no sewerage system, no houses, no delivery. I'm not talking about today on Minister Ryan's tendency in Minister of Housing. I'm talking go back 20 years, 30 years to now. No delivery. Hospital They had to put in a system in the town until they upgraded the system, but no extra capacity. That means no extra houses for people in County Limerick. So it's supposed to be housing for all, but all I'm hearing from all is Dublin. What about Limerick? And there's TDs and ministers here for Limerick and no delivery for Limerick.
Oh, here's Danny. Good man, Danny.
I have no personal gripe with that O'Brien, Minister O'Brien.
Oh, Simon Howes is laughing.
Laughing problems in Kerry, and I've made you know about this several times already. Voids, we've 171 voids in Kerry. It's not acceptable, Minister. The homeless centre that we had for years in Killarney has closed down because you're after offering people 800 tax-free to house Ukrainians and refugees. That's 1,600 when we paid it, if we had to pay the tax. We have homeless people in Kerry as well, Minister. And did he ever consider them putting them into hotels? Because there's no problem putting other into hotels.
He's asking some tough questions.
We have no affordable home program in Kerry.
He's asked them a tough question now. There's nobody else has been put into hotels.
We have no affordable home program for Kerry like other counties have for the next 5 years. And the vacant property tax that he say that you're going to compel people to purchase or to sell their land, that's affecting farmers that can't sell it. And then you're closing down Airbnbs. You won't let people do what they democratically have a right to do, to rent the house to whoever they want.
Last time caller, Minister, nobody inside this house can genuinely question your work ethic or your commitment. But I have problems with the policies. For example, the attack on the short-term lets, the Airbnb, saying that your policies will bring back into fold 12,000 homes into long-term rentals. That will not happen. You're not providing enough money on the ground to do up vacant properties. We need 2.7 million euros in Kerry. The Taoiseach told me last week that money was not a problem. Well, send us 2.7 million euros and we'll do up the vacant local authority houses that we have. We have no acquisition programme for local authorities to buy up houses in County Kerry, none whatsoever. I compliment the programme of the Croí Cónaí, that scheme, that will be good. I hope it'll work. The repair and lease scheme was bogged down in bureaucracy. That's why that failed. The land tax that is there at present, there's no allowance made for farmers who are actively farming land. You can't put people out of the business that they're in. In Kinmare, for example, no storage scheme, no development. But having said all of that, in my last remaining seconds, I want to say this to the people proposing and saying that they have the solution to housing. They wouldn't know one end of a shovel from the other end of it. They couldn't build one block on top of another block, and if we were allowed to, they wouldn't house a hen.
They wouldn't house a hen.
Minister, your support.
Couldn't house a hen. None of them in the government there could house a hen.
I would not be one of the independents to ring for support in the last few days. But remember, Minister, the saying of no wise man in West Cork that what ain't worth asking is not worth getting. Minister votes in no confidence. Our support is a very serious matter as far as I'm concerned.
Build a hen.
And my record in 2016 shows I've supported Minister Francis Fitzgerald, Dara Calleary and Brian Cohen.
Oh, well, if you supported Francis Fitzgerald or something.
I did call for the vote in no confidence in 2016 for Health Minister Simon Harris. The country was in a deep health crisis, and I did not support Minister Simon Cody with the Zapone affair because of the lack of transparency.
Exactly.
In my weighing up of your time as Minister, I do agree you inherited a complete mess, and it's going to take time to clean up. But for the dozens who come to my office and clinics weekly in Skibbereen, Clonakilty, Ben and Bantry and surrounds, they don't have time, begging me for a home or not to let them be evicted, crying a fear they won't be able to build a home, or some spending 10,000 euros on planning on a West Cork Island family farm and still refuse, leaves the housing crisis as bad now.
You still refuse. That's the thing. You could apply for housing planning permission, and they still refuse. Imagine good man.
You must have lost my phone number, but that's okay too. But anyway, Minister, 3,500 homeless people waiting on the housing list in Tipperary, not homeless, sorry. And we have many homeless, and we have agencies and people. And you can build direct build now, or modular build or everything else for our people coming from Ukraine war. And I don't oppose that, but we couldn't do it for our own people, can't do it for our own people. Excuse me, Minister, Someone said earlier introduced 22X. It's a pity you weren't in the gate here of the Abbey. You're here in the House of Parliament, you know, and you're kept from a good school of Rayfield P. Burke and G.B. Wright and Company, and indeed you're well trained right in Blunder and Bluff. Here, Minister McConnell here, Peter Bennett look after agriculture and the fishing instead of selling us out on that, and your Taoiseach and Taoiseach didn't stay here in front of the debate to support you. So well, and a lot more you wouldn't be here right on if you're waiting for Saturday. But on Sunday might be a different story. He'll be fairly sore and scratching your heads to know what happened. So I say to you, it's time to go, and let someone that can have a vision and have a way of doing something and do something for someone.
Thank you very much. I go to the independent group, and Deputy Marion Harkin sharing with Deputy Fitzmaurice, Deputies Collins and Pringle.
Thank
shouldn't
you,
be allowed to go on the
Cormac.
phone to. Who's this?
This evening, each one of us has been asked
Oh, I thought
vote
it was Liam Smith.
confidence
No,
in
that's okay.
Minister Darragh O'Brien. Now, as an independent, I try to look at the evidence of how Minister O'Brien
this is
has performed to date as Minister for Housing. I'm not interested in the politics or the
Just give me a second.
That won't. So therefore, in my less than 2 minutes, I try to look at context, outcomes and future plans. Now, any fair assessment of Minister
Just need my
O'Brien's
phone.
2.5-year tenure would take the slowdown in construction due to COVID, the escalation in building costs, supply chain challenges and Putin's aggression into consideration. But nonetheless, the bottom line, a minister's job is to deliver regardless. So I've looked at some of the figures, at some of the outcomes. And I see, for example, that the number of planning permissions granted in the 12 months to the end of June 2022 has doubled compared
I kind of just
to
the reason why we're watching this now is
But
just kind of
course,
interesting to see what
completions
happens.
are
and
what
what's inside.
matter. And in the 12 months to the end of September this year, 30% more homes have been built compared to 2019. We see the Creeconia and Town Centre first schemes, which have real potential for rural areas and for the regions. So, Minister, there is progress, but I think Minister Butler nailed it when she said, we are building homes, but we need to build them faster. And
How
that's
can
what
you
I
build a
want to
home
see,
fast
Minister.
though? Like,
I want to see real energy, real determination.
But how can you build a home
from
faster?
This government
you give them
across
coke or
all
something?
levels of government, from national right down to local, to deliver homes for our people. I want to see a minister in charge who rapidly and with singular focus implements the 17 pieces of legislation that he has brought forward, because that's what matters. You have the money and you have a lot of the legislation in place. You have a lot of irons in the fire, but any good blacksmith is judged by the finished product. And Minister, we yet have to see that.
Deputy Joan Collins.
Thanks, Count Corley.
Joan Collins, yeah.
The Minister is not responsible for the crisis in housing. The crisis is a result of an approach taken as far back as the 1980s, when the state adopted a policy of not building public housing and relied solely on the private sector. Housing and
Yeah, I was getting feeling touchy.
The problem has been based on the fact that since Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour and the Greens bear responsibility for this, what the Minister is responsible for is spoofing. He's very good at it, at pretending he has a solution and is making progress. The facts speak otherwise. Just 647 new houses were built by local authorities in the first 6 months of this year, with 11 local authorities building none. Of the 4,100 promised
Well, Lisa, in
affordable
fairness,
and
I
cost-rental,
hate
homes
Catholic
for this
Churches
year,
are decent
only
enough job,
325 affordable and
In fairness,
234
don't know about any other
cost-rental were
council, but
actually
the Catholic
delivered
Churches
in the
are
same 6-month period. Homelessness has
Because I can name a good few houses. They live with 6 down here. 6.
Men, women and children.
They live with
It's
5 in
terrible
Ballyhill,
this
so 6
government,
and 5
and
is
this has
what?
been developing over the last 10
11.
years. Rents
The
are
livid
rising
ones
at
are banging
record
me out.
levels.
The livid
A
5 or
record
6
number
that are
of
banging me out.
notices to
That's
quit and
more. So we're
evictions
talking about
have been issued.
over 20 there.
And according to
Then
the
we're talking
parliamentary
about
budget,
King's Court to the
the
level of the
most
view. They're done up some houses in the
for
town.
households with a
They've done
housing
up 3
need may be
houses or
close to
something.
122,000. That's
Yeah,
taken in.
so good. Have a good.
And Raz.
I don't know. It could be other projects are missing.
The minister should go
Yeah, the
and
baby
take
board.
with him
They've
the
done some
Taoiseach.
houses up there.
The Taoiseach and waiting, and all the rest of the government. We need not just a change of
I don't
minister,
have the
but a
exact
change
figures,
of government and policy.
And I think it's a good view now. It's a good 40. It's a good 40 or 50.
Thomas Pringle.
Not enough, but it's.
Good Cancorla. Soaring rents, outrageous house prices, crumbling Donegal homes, large-scale housing defects countrywide, a severe shortage of housing supply, 166,000 vacant properties, and homeless figures reaching all-time highs for 4 consecutive months. Minister O'Brien is not a minister for housing. He is a minister for landlords, developers, vulture funds and homelessness. This minister, through his inaction, has pitted the most vulnerable in our society against each other. He has driven and enforced an us versus them narrative, and we are all suffering as a result.
Again, apologies that we're just focusing really on this tonight. I kind of just want to hear what they have to say. Look at all of them there. They're like a bunch of fucking puppies. Just all looking at one another. We're not them. The people that feel involved with the game. None of them have a bone between each other. But yeah, we're just watching this now, so it's a bit different. We might do the game later on. One of the games for.
No confidence in you, Minister, tonight. But one of the ones I want to focus on.
But I'm kind of interested too. Just somebody said to me, it was funny. Before I joined the Kites, right back here last year, they said to me I should go on to be a political commentator. You know, like for an independent, for a newspaper or something like that. And it was funny. So, because I kind of enjoyed seeing what they have to say about themselves and kind of give a fuck about them. I kind of pick holes in what they'll say. If that makes any sense. If that makes any sense. That's what I was told to do, innit? If that makes any sense. Just thought I'd bring it up.
Get accommodation and get that done. And then we'll see now, this week as well, we'll see a couple of planning acts going through as well on the jaws of Christmas, when there will be no scrutiny in that, and which will fundamentally change how the planning system has worked in this country to the benefit of those same...
It's the same with Labour and the people for profit. It's basically every party.
We go down for government response, where we hear from Minister James Brown and finally Minister Darragh O'Brien.
I thought I was going to say Minister No before they was going to cry. But yeah, it's the same with everybody really. He responded to me. Yeah, he sent me a letter for Cabinet. Yeah, James Brown, the Minister for. Yeah. What was I going to say? I'm getting confused. So every government party there, basically what you do nothing and be happy, whatever that means. Klaus Schwab needs to tell us. But that's all. They all subscribe to that narrative, and they don't believe in property rights. Like they want to abolish that. Like this whole take for example, this right to housing bill they're trying to bring in. It seems like they have it in the term of the common good. Now it's very vague. The common good. What's the common good? Does that mean they can come into your house if you own your house and just take it over and say, this is for the common good. We're going to put in a few people from Ukraine in here and we're going to put you on the street for the common good. For the common good. Because it's very vague. And it's just kind of going, it doesn't specify what's the common good. But that legislation is still being scrutinised, not happened. It doesn't specifically say. That's the one thing you have to look at legislation. When it doesn't specifically say it can be abused, it can be abused. Disingenuous.
Minister Darragh O'Brien visited my own county, Wexford, only 2 weeks.
But that it can be abused. Like, it'd be ridiculous if they said in the interest of whatever, X, Y, and Z, and this circumstance or other stuff. But it just says, for that kind of cause. But again, you can say that for anything. You could say, you own this big property here with huge amount of land. What's this? You worked all your life. Your father worked all your life to get this property. Well, don't mind if we take this off you. The state is your father now. We're going to take all this property off. We're going to put you in a little shed in the corner of the property. You only have 4 meters of a house now left. A small shed for the cat. You can sleep in along with the cattle. We're going to take this house now and put in some people from Timbuktu. Just because we're the state, we can do whatever we want. It's for the common good. It's for the common good.
wants Facebook.
Well, you know, it's for the common good. But again, what's the common good? In what regard?
After months and months.
So take for example, you have a big house. You pay your father and your mother worked all their life to build, right? To build it. And you paid huge amount of money to build, right? And the government, okay, and you have a few bedrooms, right? You have a few spare bedrooms, things like that. The government could just come in and say, you know what, you paid how much? 2-3 million to build this house, to get a bit of land and all that, to get all the money to get a paid construction workers and things like that. You know what? We're going to just take that money. We're going to take that property off you, and we're going to put you down the road into a small 1-bedroom apartment, and you have to pay outrageous sums of money because luxury. And we're going to put a few other people in here because
put by people for profit.
You know what I'm saying. It's the common good. It's not specified what's the common good. Are we talking about people who are lying on the street for their interest or who interest? Or is it for the interest of the government? Is it for the common good of the government and for the World Economic Forum people? It doesn't specify for who is the common good. Who is it supposed to be benefit? The people who are homeless, the people who are struggling, or for the government? Yeah, because it can be wholly abused. If that's just all that it is, like for the common good, that's all in the legislation. Like it can be, you can't literally this. What can be determined as the common good? It'd be different if we give examples of what's the common good, like A, B, or C, or D, E, and F, or whatever. But the common good, it doesn't specify what's the common good.
TDs in the house if it continues any longer, because we're down to less than a third.
But at least the one thing anyway, they won't be able to pass it because that's a big, huge thing to change, to put into the constitution, things like that. So obviously that'll be you have to vote on it. Obviously people have to vote on it. So, but that's known term.
All my government colleagues are.
Yeah, they all have. Don't worry, they'll be looked after.
Country has in tackling.
But but I'm just saying what's happened. But we have to wait. We'll come to that bridge when it comes to it because there's still the
script. Government or opposition, whether some like it or not,
it might not be able to pass
to help in resolving that. Not to capitalise.
I say the one people. I say the big
not to sow division, not to block, delay, use any tactic that why you can't support a piece of legislation that's going to fast track the delivery of the social homes that all of us in government want. Many of you in opposition say you want, but then when it comes down to it, when you're actually asked to press the button, to press tall, and to support it, you don't. So the proposers of the motion yesterday, which will have been taken tomorrow, and yes, government put down a motion of confidence, but the reason we're debating this is because of our colleagues in the opposition from People Before Profit. And the members in People Before Profit regularly state, we should build public housing on public land. And you know what? This government agrees with that. But this government is doing that. So when the government brought forward legislation to do that very thing, to have an agency, a land development agency, to set it up on a statutory footing, on a legislative footing, what do? You vote against it. Now, you weren't the only ones. In fairness, Sinn Féin voted against it.
I'm going to go on a bit of a rant now for Sinn Féin. They used to have back. This is a few years ago now, but they used to have a Sinn Féin councillor now in Glentil, right? No, actually, there's a few, two or three. There are two, right? There are two councillors, I guess, and they voted against constantly. They voted against 6 or 7 housing projects, so it couldn't go ahead. But, so Sinn Féin, they can't really preach to the choir too.
Well, that might be a first. So okay, I'll stand to be corrected, and I'll go back and check the council record because I would say now anyway to get on with it. But there's a very serious thing that this government is engaged in, and that is about providing housing for all. And that's why this government, all 3 parties of this government, have put together a comprehensive plan that's very detailed and very clear for anyone to read it who wants to read it. And put that out of the actions that across government that this government needs to take to improve the situation for our citizens in this republic.
As Michael Healy said, they wouldn't build a hen house. They wouldn't house a hen. They wouldn't literally house a hen.
Nobody.
Like the government here.
Any fair assessment of that will show that. But not only
but they are. But let's be fair. We have to kind of say it straight. It is going to be Sinn Féin government, regardless of what anybody does. It is going to be Sinn Féin government. The people are just all up and down at the moment. They just want change. So I'd be very surprised now if Fianna Fáil Fine Gael in. Yeah. So it'd be Sinn Féin at the beginning. It'd be 100%, and probably in with the Labour Party maybe on this People Before Profit. Like it's going to be a huge communist government basically. But we see what happens. I don't know who's going to be worse. I don't know who's going to be his worst, but
giving their support, but also acknowledging what some of you don't want to acknowledge, that this is a very complex situation. that it's not easy to resolve this, but we will resolve it. But some want to paint this in very
Karen
simplistic
Nolan's on her
terms,
phone.
that we have a solution like that. And we
Didn't
can
respond
solve
to me.
it.
I know Karen Nolan, but she didn't respond to
And in
this.
fairness, the public know that too. And let's show some respect to the voters out there as well.
I will.
And that
You have
respect
some
should extend
guff
to the
too,
fact
because
that
they
when we
didn't
bring
vote you in
forward
number one.
alternatives, they should stack up and they should be implementable. And if you support social housing across this country, don't object to it. Don't let your councillors go in and object time after time after time and find reasons why you should object. Any reason. Don't object and don't vote against legislation.
But yeah,
that's
I'm
going
just
to
saying
fast-track
too. Like, say if they were going to build it on top of an old sewer, well, there's huge amount of rats at any moment. A huge amount of rats could come out of the ground, basically. You know, you have to ask for this, but then.
And even the Social Democrats who say they want cost rental, this government delivered it. We delivered it within 12 months, didn't exist. Voted against the Affordable Housing Act that actually sets up cost rental. A national scheme, right across the board. So when I meet, but from time to time I do, Social Democrat councillors around the country going to the opening of new housing estates, I'll welcome them there. But you've got to ensure, and we've got to ensure that we're delivering the supply that we need across the board. And actually, thankfully, we're doing that this year. Now, is it enough? Of course it's not enough. Do we want to build the capacity up to be able to do more? Yes, of course we do. And that's the whole purpose of this plan. Because you do not go from 20,000 homes in 1 year to 40,000 the next. It is simply not doable. But what we have shown is a way to get there and a way to actually do that. Putting home ownership right back at the centre of housing solutions in this country. For our young women and young men right across this country who are working and who are renting and who want to be able to own their home, they can now do that. 16,000 first-time buyers in the last year alone. The First Home Scheme, the state stepping in to take the equity between the finance someone has and what they need. We've done it. It's in place, and more people are getting out of that rental trap and actually accessing the scheme. What do people before profit do? What does Sinn Féin do? Against. And I do think, actually, it's a political judgment that has been made by many in the opposition to slow down progress. So there isn't progress in 2 years' time. You have a responsibility, colleagues. You have a responsibility to ensure that our citizens have homes. And the number one priority for us in this government is to tackle the homeless situation, the homeless crisis that is there right now. And we will do everything. And I, as Minister, will work every hour that is sent to make sure we turn around that situation. But fundamentally within that, it's about supplying new homes. So what I'd say to you, Deputy Boyd Barrett and Deputy Murphy, and indeed others this evening, that when we're talking about supplying new homes, that do talk to your own councillors around the country. The letter that arrived in Carlow County Council on the 18th of November, one of your own councillors, objecting to 42 senior citizens' houses in Carlow. Why? I asked the question why. What can be wrong with that? I asked Sinn Féin, what is wrong with vacancy grants? What is wrong with giving people the support that they need?
Whatever they get.
So we have a suite of measures through our plan. We're focused on delivering it, and we'll continue to do it. And I would just, in conclusion, just to thank colleagues for their support this evening and for their contributions.
Mother leis Tarishkent Miriaul winning us on a Tihiacht Realtas Ochul agus Eirachta agus she an Keshta Ronin Ishna an 18th on Tarishkent. The question before us now is that the motion moved by the Taoiseach be agreed to. The motion agreed? Not agreed. The Tafti Tarhevna Tarishkent Aberdish Paul. Eid the Tiny Pinna Aberdish Need. Stolen with a cash rich, I believe the question carried. Vote all.
Right. You know, Norman Foley's there. We should be all talking about why Norman Foley's still at TD, but they're all fucking off now. Oh, off to the door bar now to get a cup of tea and getting a bit of alcohol. All free, all taxpayer paid. I don't know that. Oh, Norman Foley's on the wall now. What a pity. It sucks to be sucks to suck. Should we just watch this for the Western Hightower? Should we play the game? What do you think? Because I just actually want to just give out about every TD I see here. Because as I said before, somebody before I started before I went and got my job in the council, they were saying I should have went on to college and been a political accommodator, or things like that. That's what people were saying to me. Because I would have wear them out. Like, I'd be watching the Dáil and I'd be commentating in the newspapers or whatever it might be. Like, it would be some crack now. I'd be saying, "Dog Jesus," we're giving that fuck. Yeah, do you want to watch because again, we won't be playing any game, but we can play it tomorrow night. Because they'll be soon going on holiday now. Jesus, no. Everybody's like, no. I don't know what these think. We might do a photo. I think we should do photo. Yeah, photo. We're doing the vote. The same as them. No, but Foley's actually chatting. Who's she chatting to them? Who want to chat to number 40 first of all? Let's be fair. Your man, whoever your man is desperate. There's Holly Collins. Like half of them are on their phone, the fuckers. And they should be doing the job. Focus and not the focus. Who's this fella coming in there? Sneaking in the door. They're coming from the pub. Disgusting. How can I do votes? Let me do votes. I get my man. Dumb. So you saw number 41, so I feel sorry for you. I'm so sorry you had to witness that tragedy. Why can I not do votes on my phone? This is outrageous. This is actually outrageous. Why can I not do votes on my phone? This is actually ridiculous. I'll go on. This is a joke. I thought this was democracy. Alright, the drinks. And I guess who's paying for it, Sean? Well, to have a guess. Me and you. Aren't we great? We are fantastic people. Don't you know? Where the fuck am I? Excuse me. Photol. If I can get the photol in. Why is it not letting me do photol? If it's letting me on my computer, it wouldn't let me on my phone. Why is it not letting me do photol? Photol! Engage with your audience. Start a poll. Should we continue? I can't spell continue. Should we still watch great TDs in the Dáil Éireann? Top Neil. Photol. I think I should just give out. I think I'm gonna go and give out anyway. We'll see what people say. I think I just want to give out about them today. I think I just want to give out fuck about them all day today. So it's up to you. So you want me to see giving out fuck about every TD? Like I'm just looking to see. There's Anne Rabbit. We'll have to say about her too, but I know. Number 40, I think she's crying now. And I feel sorry for Adam. Having to, like, that's a tragic effect, having to see number 40 when you're a child. You're a young person, imagine that. Great TDs. Who's that fella? Stephen Donnelly's talking to somebody. I know, I can't see, he's asking me back to the camera. Number 40's on the phone, disgrace. So who's on the phone to Photol? It's up to you. Whatever you think. I'm playing GTA while listening. Yeah, Jesus, you should be more with GT. Who's that coming in with a big coat? I'm sure they have the heating on. I'm sure they're not. Like, let's be fair, they're not in the code, anyway. Let's be fair, they're literally not in the code. Who is he? Like, there's people just coming in all hours in the night. Jack Chambers is on the phone. I think I said that. That's Crow. Barry Crow, whatever you call him down in Kildare. There's Pauline Tully. This I can see Simon Howes. I see Hedo's head. That might sound a bit wrong. And just it's hard to see because some of them are facing back to me. Judging the efforts. Well, not judging them. I just kind of see like no. Who has number 40 going now? She's speaking to somebody from Social Democrats. He has a bald head and a. Can't tell who he. Everybody's standing looking away from the camera. Right, so we're going to be here all night looking at Tall Ewan. Right, that's fair enough. Votes called. Tall has won. August on Luke on. Anyway, so look, we do something different. We give out fuck tonight about these. There's Mary Lou. Hello, Mary Lou. There's Mary Butler talking to somebody. Was Neve Smith? Where's Neve Smith gone? Brendan Smith. Oh, click pause. Shit. And there's fucking Barry Cowan. What have you done? People for profit. Do I know anybody else? There's this fucking okay. What have you come him? See, so many GDs and fucking senders. You don't remember. Why does number 46 stand in the middle of the floor? Why does she want to stand in the middle of the floor? Like I think she knows well. She's probably watching. Imagine if she's watching the stream, just stand in the middle of the floor to piss everybody off. Like she knows everybody's watching, and she just wants to piss everybody off. Oh, look at these two boys coming in. Look at them. Oh, Jesus. They like literally they have been in the pub. Like they're like a few lads coming in from the pub there. You know, oh, Jesus. Like that's what they're up to. Like a few lads coming into the pub. And somebody's there saying his prayers, I think. Eamon Ryan's falling asleep, it looks like. There's Willie. Oh, there's Willie O'Deed. Oh, good man, Willie. Any hash, Willie? Any hash? Should go and wing Willie and ask him, does he have any hash? Any hash? Any hash, Willie? Do you think he has any hash? There, Ann Rabbit's talking to again, fucking to so many people at the moment. You see these ushers, like they have to open the door for these, like they're fucking royalty, and if I was an usher, I'd slam the door in the face. There's Darragh O'Leary. COVID loves the party, Jawa. I love to be just up above, looking down, just shouting abuse at them. It'd be good fun. It'd be good crack, wouldn't it? Me just there giving out fuck about them. Like that has to happen. You have to get out. Somebody has to get onto the doll and say, "Get me there for a day." Like I just endlessly give out fuck to number 40. Like imagine me just above and you just hear me giving out fuck during half of the door section. Now, there's definitely a few people here with a few pints on them anyway tonight. Let me see. I need to just go. I walked this TV live. Let's see if there's because I think there's music actually in it. Yeah, you can listen to the music. The music is actually pretty good if you walk this TV. It's a bit small of a picture now, so I have to bend over here. Bend over. No more. You can see no more 40 mile away. For work experience. Are you actually? Tell man coming soon. I'll be there. I'll be sitting in one of their seats soon for Calvin and Mullen. Wait, you see. And I fucking give them a good telling off all the fucking hills to step. Tell them I'm coming and I'm coming with a vengeance. Are you actually? Tell them they're all butchered assholes. Tell them I said none of them are worth put toppings. My computer's actually losing the will to live looking at them. You're not joking around, you're not memeing around. And what are you supposed to be doing with work experience in Dollar? Well, they better throw a few bucks at you, the TDs. Because let's be fair, they're getting fucking 100,000 €. I'm sure they can throw a few bob at you every week. Are you working for a TD or you're like in the Oculus? Like, are you working for some TD? If you don't mind now, you don't have to say specifically who the TD is right now. But if so, they have to give you a few bob now. They couldn't be that mean. I'm not joking. I sent you a photo. Don't fucking you dare. That's high treason. Tell him I'd put him up for treason if I get away with it. Yeah, go to number 40 and say fucking I don't know. But like they have like literally you should look for pay anyway. Don't be going and doing it for nothing now. Yeah, that's my advice. Don't be going and doing it for nothing because they're fucking getting well paid to stand around and arse around doing nothing. Yeah, fucking people in the walkers. And you, but don't say you'll be running around after these lunatics in the door and like an usher or something like that. Oh, but yeah, number 40, like nobody want to see no more. I'm actually going to cry now if you're going to number 40. Well, I think you're actually going to cry. She could just, like, any child just cries. There's Neve Smith. Neve Smith's back. I don't know where she went. I could give Neve a call now. Imagine just me winging. Hello, Neve, I'm watching on the telly. Like, I have her number there if I wanted to ring her. But anyway, yeah, no, Neve's a good person now. I'm not going to say anything bad about Neve. Neve's nice TD. You told her she'd make a better minister for education than number 40, and that's just saying it straight up.
Please take their designated seats.
No. Make a fucking teacher.
Motion of
No, I'm not winging up. Oh, this Brendan, they're a good man, Brendan.
Question is that the motion be agreed to, and on that question, division has been challenged. There's Paul, Minister Jack Chambers, and Deputy Brendan Griffin, Neil, Deputy Richard Boyd Barrett, and Deputy Paul Murphy.
A few sandwiches, please don't be not mean. But no, but make sure they do give you a few bob now, regardless, because they're full of money in there. So you know it'll kill them now to give you a few bob, you know. But don't be doing it for nothing now, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, but get something out of it now, because it isn't right now that you be doing work experience or anything like that. No, because I did work experience when I was in LCA, and I had to pay €500 to get a taxi for a few months up to the place. So I was at a huge loss. I was the only one out of it, and I was the only one that wasn't paid out of the whole lot because I was working in the public service. So that wasn't fair. Like even some in the charity shop. I remember somebody worked for the charity shop. And they got all of them in the charity shop that worked voluntary. They all pitched together to get a post in the box of chocolates as a thank you. But yeah, I was the only one who got nothing, so it was not fair now to be paid nothing. And especially if you had a cost, if you had a cost for going up to it, make them pay for the bus fares and all that. And just a bit of advice, Adam, because it's not fair for people to go out of their way to do a walk and not get paid for it, Especially for these assholes sitting there on €100,000 a year. If that makes sense, I'm sure you know where I'm coming from. Aye, but yeah, it was a bit of, but anyway, sure, look, it's in the past anyway, as I said. Oh, so they're subsidising them, well, that's good. As long as they're subsidised, because again, you'd be out a good few bob, as I say, if you were getting, well, you wouldn't be getting taxed, but you'd be a few bob now, you'd be spending on bus fares or train or whatever. And it's not right thing, especially, it'd be different if you lived beside the thing. As long as they're subsidised, then that's the main thing. Because you shouldn't have to take it out of your own pocket now. Because again, as I say, all these fuckers are sitting on €100,000 a year. Along with the ushers and things, they'll be getting a good few bob in there. They wouldn't be doing it for nothing now. No one's talking to Stephen Donnelly. Oh, he's staying with your grandparents. Okay, that's good. So it's only 2 days of work experience, is it? No, I thought you were going to do it every week. I know, but it's just fair, because again, these people are on a lot of money, It'll kill them now to give Adam a few bob. But I say they'll probably sort it out now. Because you shouldn't have to pay. Because again, it'll be a good few bob now. But it is only for 2 days, he said.
Point out that after this business, we'll be moving straight on to the appropriation bill. It's going to take quite some time. We have a very late sitting that we're anticipating. So can members please leave the House quietly and speedily. The result of that vote was Paul 86, Neil 63. There was one abstention, so I think the
Who
government
abstained?
has won the confidence motion in the minister.
Who's abstended? Who abstended, but I would love to know. I just get them for everything to vote on them. Yeah, we'll continue watching the West Ham and see what they have to say. I do care how
Has
them going
passed the Social Welfare Bill 2022 without amendment. We move straight away then to the Appropriation Bill second stage.
Yeah, there's a big queue now for the
and I
job.
call on the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, Minister Michael McGrath, to move the second reading.
Everybody
motion.
fucked off and enough.
And
Nobody's
when
there.
he moves it, he will have 10 minutes to outline his proposal.
I move, Count Corley.
Thank you.
I proceed.
Voting the
Count
confidence
Corley,
off for
pleased
the
to
minister.
introduce the appropriation bill
I don't know what this bill is.
2022 to the House today. The annual
Yeah,
appropriation
catch
bill
its
is
opponent,
a
yeah,
critical
exactly.
piece of financial legislation.
And they'd be get if they were
Must be
travelling from the door, they could get
enacted before the end of the year.
travelling expenses. Like as I said,
Bill has
one
two
councillor in
primary
Cavan,
purposes.
how did he get 52,000 euro in expenses for a year?
Expenditure that has occurred.
Please somebody answer me that. How did he spend 52,000 euro in 1 year in expenses? And half of it was fucking for travel. And where was he travelling to in 2021? Where was he going? We were not them.
1 and Schedule 1 of the bill. These relate to
Yeah, beats me.
the revised estimates and supplementary estimates agreed by the Dáil this year.
Because I never got that answer when I asked them.
These estimates amount to 75.1
I remember,
billion
of course,
euro.
and the make of over. Actually, yeah, in the letters and all that. All free, all the tax benefits. It's a great life. It's the life you want.
Was 73.1 billion euro.
Oh, yeah, all
The
gone
amount
to
to be
Dáil at the
appropriated
moment.
this year,
The Dáil
therefore,
bar. Oh, having big
represents
fees
an
and everything.
increase of 2 billion euro, or just under 3% on last year's net voted expenditure. In gross terms, and taking into account expenditure in the Social Insurance Fund and the National Training
Should we
Fund,
watch the West of these also?
total
Because again, the
gross
good
voted
bit's
expenditure
over.
made available this year was 90.7
It's up to people to
billion
do, because
euro.
I just kind of wanted to see the
This
no
expenditure
confidence.
has
motion.
allowed continued investment in our
'Cause I don't even
economy
know what they're talking about,
and our public
appropriation bill.
services to support a strong, fair and equal society into the future.
Oh no.
The funding allocations made in 2022 supported the delivery of important priorities in areas
It's entirely up to
including
people,
housing,
because I kind of
health,
don't understand what
social
they're fucking
protection,
talking about.
childcare,
At the moment, like to
education,
finish with the
and
bill, I
climate
wanted to
action.
hear about.
It has
Like what they were
provided
doing this
increases in social assistance payments, reforms in the health sector, including for Sláintecare, more teaching, SNA and special education
That's not
teaching
bad, yeah.
posts, and additional Gardaí and Garda civilian staff. It also facilitated enhanced capital funding.
Yeah, there's no other. They're
under the
they're
National
just shouting
Development
all about
Plan,
other stuff now.
with a particular focus on housing, climate action and health. The amounts outlined in the appropriation
So should we go
bill
to the game? Should we
also
do the game?
reflect the significant resources made available during 2022.
I think we should go
through
over to the game. What did
supplementary
people take?
estimates. These provided additional funding to votes for a range of developments.
Oh,
over the
folks,
year,
yeah, folks, yeah,
including
yeah.
cost of living supports introduced throughout 2022, or provision
Hello,
of humanitarian
Miles.
supports in response to the war in Ukraine, and the extension of the Building Momentum public sector pay.
Yeah, I think we go over to the game. Like the game we'll play
Prices
last
this year
night.
have placed a financial strain on many households,
Yeah, I think we'll
individuals,
go
and
over it.
businesses. To provide
Unless you
support
want to listen
towards
to these
reducing,
assholes for
the
more
burden
now.
of inflation.
So kind of just wanted to hear
government
about this.
introduced a number of measures over the course of the
Yeah,
year.
no confidence.
The cost of which are reflected
No bother,
in the
take,
appropriation bill amounts. In recognition of the unprecedented rise in energy bills, the winter cost of living package provided 2.2 billion euro in supports for households, with further supports introduced for businesses and key public services. Together with the measures announced earlier this year and in Budget 2022, expenditure measures introduced during this year to mitigate the impacts of increasing costs on households and businesses have a value of
Oh,
over
you want me
5
to stay
billion
and
euro.
watch this?
For example, this funding allowed for electricity credits with a value of €200 each for just over 2 million households, a 20% reduction in public transport fares, which benefited over 800,000 daily users, additional fuel allowance payments, and a double week of social welfare payment in October. It also provided funding for the Temporary Business Energy Support Scheme to support businesses with increases in their electricity or natural gas energy costs. The second key purpose of the appropriation bill is to provide a legal basis for spending to continue into next year, in the period before the Dáil votes on the 2023.
Oh, so you want me to go to the game? Well, we're not doing the
Central
police
Fund
simulator.
Permanent
We're
Provisions
doing
Act of
the sniper
1965.
simulator.
The authority for spending in 2023,
I need to know, yes or no, Todd,
prior
Neil,
to
what?
the agreement of the 2023 estimates by the Dáil, is based on the amounts included in the 2022 appropriation bill. It is for this reason that it is so important that this bill is enacted before the end of this year. If it were not enacted, there would be no authority to spend any voted monies in 2023 from the start of January until the approval of the 2023 estimates. In recognition of the challenges faced by government departments in planning for major capital projects, the rolling multi-annual capital envelopes introduced in 2004 allow for the carryover of unspent voted capital expenditure from the current year into the next year. This is subject to a maximum of 10% of the voted capital expenditure in the current year and provides a degree of flexibility in relation to capital expenditure planning. The 2022 Appropriation Act sets out the capital amounts which are to be carried over to 2022 on a vote basis. In aggregate, capital carryover from 2022 to 23 amounts to almost €690 million, which is approximately 6% of the overall Exchequer capital programme for 2022 of €11.5 billion.
Shut these fuckers up.
This carryover into next year.
So that was we're getting expected anyway. No surprise. We'll move over for a second and then we go over to the game. I set it up. Okay. Right. 88. Anyway, what does people take my top? I know I was hiding it there for a good while. Because I was too afraid of getting abuse. That's why I asked Helen McAtee, can she bring in a hate legislation? The Finlands get to people offending the Finland. Yes. No bother if you want to take it. We're nearly 3 hours bullshitting about TDs. Quiet engine, oh, very nice. See, I just set it up now. The next mission. So I'm just setting this up. Aye, exactly, but what do we take? Exactly. We're going over to the game now. So yeah, I just set it up actually. I mean, there's one more thing I'm missing. Sniper, what they call it? Sniper. Ghost contract. So yeah, we're gonna. Amicha's over there. I'm going live now. Just now, as soon as the stream's over, I'm going live now on the game. So meet me over there.